Okay, on air. Go away, screen. All right. So, what are you doing? Get out of here. Hide. All right. So, hello. Welcome to today's stream. I started 1 minute early, but pretty close to on time, so that's good. So, as you can see, we're on my desktop right now, and I haven't actually started drawing anything. It's because I was kind of thinking that maybe I would let people kind of choose what they wanted to see me draw. Things over here, kind of what I was thinking about. So there's like a really old comic sketch that I'd done that I was thinking of redoing. This is just like a mythical forest lady that I never finished coloring. Could do a meme, could draw some blushy faces, going all blushy blushy. This is a thing that I started kind of trying to do some different coloring styles. It's another comic thing. And then in here, we got, I can't really see it. Yeah, so that's that's the Patreon thing. Oh, hello, Greg. This is the Patreon current wallpaper that I should finish. Probably work on that if nobody shows up and comments. But yeah, so also, yeah, my beautiful Thrilling Intent fan art that I had to put up here because I like it too much. You ever have those times when you draw a thing that you like too much and then it's all of your wallpapers? That's what this is. Anyway, yeah, so if people wanna let me know, I'm gonna hang out for like a minute or so. I had some things that I wanted to talk about.
Greg says roll a dice and let fate decide.
You're no fun, Greg.
I can random number generate it.
You could, yeah, okay. Well, why don't you do that? Go ahead and random number generate it, and then if it's not something I actually want to do, then I could open some of these too so people can see them. So that's what that one is. It's a shitty sword. I need to draw it. That's what that one is. I wonder, yeah, those ones I started back when I was on my other computer too. Oh yeah, here's the Michael face. I learned a valuable lesson with this. I started drawing this one when it was in 72 DPI, so that's why all of these are kind of fuzzy. But that one's really crisp because I changed it halfway through to 300 or 600 or something. Because,
oh goodness.
Yeah, it's not good. Probably should never print that. But yeah.
Okay, what do you want to call them all?
I want to call them all, I don't know, just do redo, forest, meme.
Redo, forest, meme.
Diamond, and Patreon. I think I had a thing I wanted to say about Patreon. Some kind of announcement. I don't remember what, though. Oh, I guess it was probably the, in regards to wallpaper set. If you pledge $5 or more, it doesn't say this on Patreon yet, but since there's only 3 people that are at that level, I was going to take requests basically for wallpaper sets. This one is kind of a request from the first $5 level one. I feel a little bit, I don't know if it's bad or just what, but the 3 $5 people are all people that are my friends, which, like, on the one hand you're like, yay, you're great guys, thank you for giving me $5 a month. That's gonna go straight into my Project Wonderful cookie jar for some sweet ad space on, like, I don't know where. Maybe if I get enough money, I'll just do like a day on questionable content and see what happens. But this one was requested by Camille. She asked for either she asked for either all of the characters sleeping or like something with tofu, and originally I was gonna do all the characters sleeping on tofu, but then when I did the sketches for it, Michael was always like cuddling Tofu's butt, and I was like, no, that's dumb. So dumb. Anyway, did Greg ever make up his mind? Did we get a result for our random thing?
Greg said roll the dice. Random generator said diamond.
I don't really want to work on diamond. You know what? Let's just do this one. Let's just
random generator now says forest.
I'm just gonna do Patreon.
Right.
Probably for the best because I need to get this done. All right. So, do you want to start reading? Do you want to start doing the reads? Because I'd really like to hear you do the reads.
Oh,
It'd be pretty
okay.
great. Pretty great.
It just finished up what I was doing, so.
Well, that's good. That's perfect timing then. So we're gonna start reading Arabian Nights to you guys, to Greg anyway, and whoever comes and watches this later. I got like 26 views on the last one, which was more than I was expecting. But yeah. So to kind of recap, we've been reading Arabian Nights, and like we're not gonna reread it because that would be crazy. But it's not really important for you to hear the whole thing anyway. It's more of kind of like a lot of the stories are the same, and they're all changing and overlapping, and it'll be fine. You don't need to hear the whole thing from the beginning to enjoy the fable type stories that they are. Did you not mark the page? Oh my god.
I marked the page.
Okay.
But I didn't stop between the nights. I just stopped
mid-story. That's weird. That's an unusual thing for you to have done.
Oh, wait, no.
I think we were in a weird place anyway.
Okay, yeah, this is one of the stories inside of a story inside of a story inside of a story.
Yeah, that happens a lot too. So kind of recap where we were at. I think we were hearing Jafar tell a story. No.
Yeah, so we're just at the beginning of how it is related that Jafar said to the Caliph. This is about the two brothers that went their separate ways, and they're supposed to marry two sisters and have babies at the same time.
Yeah, because
and it still ended up happening.
But they weren't. Now, did they marry sisters, or did they just have babies?
I think they just had babies at the same time.
Conceived on the same night
through random happenstance / fate.
Right. They wanted. Okay, so the Arabian Nights were written a really long time ago when they had really weird, old-fashioned ideas about the world, such as marry two brothers marrying two sisters, so that they could each have a son and a daughter, and then marry those two together to make more babies.
Yeah, so they can consummate their marriage on the same night, conceive a baby on the same night, and then exactly the same amount of time later, they can have a baby on the same day, and then they can marry those babies together.
Yep. Marrying your cousin. There's a lot of that. There's a lot of marrying your cousin. There's a lot of sexist nonsense. A lot of just really not great things, but they're pretty amusing stories, and they're a classic. It's a classic. So let's get the show on the road, so I can stop talking and kind of focus on what I'm doing.
Okay. So to pick up where we left off, these two brothers had planned to marry two sisters and have the babies at the same time, but they got into a fight because one decided that their unborn daughter was worth more than what the other one was implying.
Oh yeah, he didn't want to pay dowry or something to marry his cousin.
Men are more important. I don't want to pay a dowry to marry your daughter. And so they got in a big fight about babies that haven't even been born from wives they haven't even met. And so they got into a fight and they went their separate ways. And the younger one lived his life elsewhere, ended up getting married and having a baby, and then we find out later that his brother, in his own due course, got married at the same time. And now this is Jafar telling his caliph how
which is like
happened.
A prince. My very caliph.
I heard that at the time Nur al-Din set out from Egypt, his elder brother Shams al-Din journeyed with the king of Egypt, and they were absent for a month. When they returned, the king went to his palace, while Shams al-Din went home. And when he looked for his brother and could not find him, he asked the servants and was told, "Oh, our lord, no sooner had the sun risen on the very morning you set out on your journey than he was already far away. He said that he would stay away for a night or two, but we have not heard from him ever since." When he heard what they said, he felt very sorry to lose his brother and said to himself, "He must have run away, and I must pursue him even to the remotest corners of the land." Then he sent couriers after Nur al-Din, who had already reached Basra. When the couriers reached Aleppo, but heard no news of Nur al-Din, and returned empty-handed, Shams al-Din despaired of finding him and said to himself, "There is no power, there is no strength, save in God, the Almighty, the Magnificent. I went too far in quarreling with him over the marriage." Sometime later,
Sometime lady.
I was reading ahead to the Almighty part.
Okay.
Sometime later, the Almighty God willed that Shams al-Din would seek in marriage the daughter of one of the merchants of Cairo, that he should draw up the marriage contract on the very same day that his brother drew up his in Basra, and that he should consummate his marriage on the very same night that his brother consummated his own with the vizier's daughter in Basra. So the Almighty and glorious God, in order that his decree over his creatures be fulfilled for a purpose of his own, let it come to pass, O Commander of the Faithful, that these two brothers drew up their marriage contracts on the very same day and consummated their marriages on the very same night, one in Cairo and the other in Basra. Subsequently, the wife of Shams al-Din, Muhammad, the vizier of Egypt, gave birth to a girl and the wife of Nur al-Din, al-Mizri. The vizier of Basra gave birth to a boy who put to shame both the sun and the moon. He had a neck as white as marble, a radiant brow, and rosy cheeks, and on the right cheek he had a mole like a disc of ambergris. He was like one of whom the poet said, "There is a slender youth, whose hair and face all mortals envelop with light and gloom. Mark on his cheek the mark of charm and grace, a dark spot on a red anemone." That child, who had a figure as slender as a bough, was endowed by God with beauty, charm, and perfect grace, so that he captured the heart with his loveliness and captivated the mind with his perfection. He was so faultless in character and looks that the deer stole from him their necks and eyes and every other grace.
Okay.
He was like him of whom the poet said, "With him to make compare beauty they brought, but beauty hung his head in abject shame. They said, 'O beauty, have you seen his like?' Beauty replied, 'I have never seen the same.'" Nur al-Din Ali named him Badr al-Din Hassan, and his grandfather, the vizier of Basra, rejoiced in him and gave banquets in his honor and distributed presents worthy of kings. One day, the vizier took Nur al-Din Ali, the vizier of Egypt, with him and went up to the king. When Nur al-Din entered before the king, he kissed the ground before him and repeated the following verses, for he was a cultivated, intelligent, generous, and gentle man. "May you live long in glory, night and day, and may eternal bliss attend your way." The king thanked Nur al-Din for the compliment and asked his vizier, "Who is this young man with you?" The vizier repeated Nur al-Din's story from the beginning to end, adding, "O king, I would like my lord Nur al-Din to take my place as vizier, for he is an eloquent man, and I, your slave, have become a very old man, weak in body and mind. As a favor, in consideration of my service to your majesty, I beg you to appoint him my vizier in my place, for he is more qualified than I." And he kissed the ground before the king. When the king looked at Nur al-Din, the vizier of Egypt, and scrutinized him, he was pleased with him and took a liking to him. So he granted the vizier's request, bestowed on Nur al-Din a full robe of honor, presented him with one of his best she-mules, and allotted him stipends and allowances.
She-mules.
And then Nur al-Din and his father-in-law went home, feeling happy and saying to each other, "The newborn Hassan has brought us good fortune." The next day, Nur al-Din went up to the king and, sitting in the vizier's seat, carried out all the usual duties of viziers, signing, instructing, judging, and granting, for nothing was beyond him. And the king took him into favor. Then Nur al-Din Ali al-Mizri went home, happy and pleased with his position as vizier and with the powers and favors the king had bestowed on him. The days and nights went by, and he continued to raise and rejoice in his son Badr al-Din Hassan, who grew and thrived, becoming ever more beautiful and charming. When the boy was 4 years old, his grandfather, the old vizier, his mother's father, fell ill and willed all his wealth to him. And when the grandfather died, they mourned him and gave banquets for a whole month. Nur al-Din continued to be the vizier of Basra, and his son Badr al-Din continued to grow and thrive.
Continued to be just so hot. Most hot baby.
When he was 7 years old, Nur al-Din entered him in this school and charged the tutor to take care of him, saying, "Take care of this boy and give him a good education and teach him good manners." At school, everybody was as pleased with Badr al-Din as could be, for he was intelligent, perceptive, sensible, well-mannered, and articulate. And for 2 full years, under his tutor's guidance, he continued to read and learn. But morning overtook Shahrazad, and she lapsed into silence.
Oh, did we talk about? Should we talk about what all the Arabian Nights are told by?
Oh,
Let's
yeah.
give the context of that because
Yeah, so
I don't, just in case people don't know.
The basic backstory is there is this king whose wife cheated on him with a whole slew of slaves, and he became so upset and untrusting of women. And then, like, his brother, the same thing happened to him, where his wife cheated. So they both killed their wives and thought, like, no other misery could be complete. And so this king took a wife, and each night he would get married, sleep with her, and then the following morning have her killed. And then Shahrazad
was the vizier's daughter.
Was a vizier's daughter, and she was like, I want to marry this dude because I got a plan.
And so, yeah, she was like, I can't continue seeing my countrywomen murdered like this. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. So Shahrazad marries the king, and that night she's like, I'll tell you. Well, she got her sister Dinarzad in on the deal.
And what was it, like, sleep under or like stay under our bed and come out after we finished or whatever?
Yeah, pretty much.
It's so strange. Like, it's the weirdest. Okay.
So Shahrazad each night tells a portion of a story, and the stories are so interesting that the king spares her stays awake all night and then spares her the following day because he wants to hear the rest of the story. So each one of these nights is another night that Shahrazad tells another bit of story to stay alive longer. And even though it's often called 1,000 or 1,001 Arabian Nights, there are not actually 1,001 nights worth of story. The 74th night. The following night, Shahrazad said, I heard, O king, that Jafar said to the caliph, by the time Badr al-Din was 12 years old, he had learned to read and write the Arabic language, as well as calligraphy, mathematics, and jurisprudence. Furthermore, the Almighty God had bestowed on his fine figure the robe of beauty, charm, and perfect grace, so that he was like the one of whom the poet eloquently said, in perfect beauty he vies with the moon, in his fine figure with the slender bow. The sun sets in his cheeks anemones. The rising moon shines in his radiant brow. All grace is his, and if he does the earth with beauty from his boundless grace endow. Yet while he was growing up, he never ventured into the city until one day his father, Nur al-Din Ali, had him fully attired, placed him on a she-mule, and went with him through the city on his way to the king. When the people looked at him and saw his face, they invoked God to save his beauty from harm, raising their voices in prayer for him and his father as they crowded around him to look at his beauty, charm, and perfect grace. From that time on, he rode with his father every day, and everyone who saw him marveled at his loveliness, for he was like the one of whom the poet said, when he appeared, they said, may he be blessed. In glory to the God who fashioned such a one. Above all lovely men, he was the king, and his subjects all, excepting none. The nectar of his mouth tasted so sweet. This boy is 12.
I know, right?
And like a row of pearls, his white teeth shone. He garnered all the beauty of the world, leaving all mortals helpless and undone. And on his cheeks, beauty for all to see, proclaimed, no one is beautiful but he.
Jeez. Nobody gets to be beautiful but this kid. Only him.
Great commentary so far has been Misery Loves Company in relation to the brothers.
Okay.
The original King brothers.
Mm-hmm.
And good thing that being a storyteller in this day and age does have an audience that will get you killed. Doesn't have an audience that would get you killed.
It's debatable.
Yeah, I've seen some upset players in my day.
Well, even just like people writing books, people get angry at things, death threats and whatnot.
He bent coquettishly like a willow bough, and his cheeks resembled roses and anemones. I don't know if they've made this clear yet. Sometimes this book has some subtext. What they're trying to say is this character is really attractive.
Yeah.
So I think Sometimes it gets
Most
lost in the
beautiful.
poetry, but
Like,
yes, he's good looking.
He's so good looking. He's the most beautiful baby.
With sweet speech and a smile so radiant as to put the full moon to shame, he was the lover's trial and delight. When he reached the age of 20, his father, Nur al-Din Ali, having grown feeble, summoned him and said, "Son, you should know that this world is temporary, while the next is eternal. I wish to instruct you in what I have learned and understood. I have 5 admonitions for you." Then he recalled his home and country, and, thinking of his brother Shams al-Din, began to weep over his separation from those he loved and from his distant home. And as passion raged within him, he sighed deeply and repeated the following verses. "I blame you and proclaim my ardent love. My body is here, my heart with you still. I did not wish to leave you, but our fate and God's decree defeat the human will." When he finished reciting the verses and stopped weeping, he said to his son, "Son, before I give you advice, you should know that you have an uncle who is a vizier in Egypt, and whom I left without his consent, as it had been foreordained." Then he took a roll of paper and wrote down what had happened between him and his brother before his departure. When he wrote down what had happened to him in Basra, and how he had become a vizier, according to the date of the day on which he got married and the night on which he consummated the marriage, noting that he was less than 40 years old on the day of the quarrel.
So, what? Okay.
Well, he's writing out his account for his son now, and he made specifically to mention the night that the day he got married and the night he consummated his marriage.
Was he 40 then?
He was under 40.
Under 40. That's not very specific.
He was younger than 40 when he quarreled with his brother and left, and I don't think he traveled that far.
Okay. Yeah, okay. All right.
Greg says he would totally love to see a redneck version of Arabian Nights.
Well, I mean, there's enough incest, so...
Son, come on over. I'm going to tell you some things. I'm going to learn you some things. What'd you say, Pa?
He was pretty as a possum.
Okay, that's... So he concluded by stating that this was his letter to his brother, whom he commended to God's care. Then he folded and sealed the scroll, saying, "O Hassan, my son, keep this scroll, and don't ever part with it." Hassan took it and hid it by sewing it into the skull cap of his turban. It seemed practical. I don't know.
How would you ever get it? Why do you need to hide it? Why don't you just put it in your pocket?
Well, because he never wants to lose it.
Oh, okay.
He wanted to sew it into his clothing. That was probably the most comfortable place to put a scroll.
That's going to be really hard to get out again later. All right.
Well, he doesn't need it frequently.
What if you want to anyway, what if you want to reread it? I don't know. What if you want to give it
it's
to your...
sealed.
It's sealed. Okay, fine.
Well, his eyes filled with tears for parting from his father, who was entering the throes of death.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, he's dying.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But a while later, his father opened his eyes, not actually dying quite yet.
Okay.
And said, it's kind of like in movies where they're like, "Oh,
I'm dead. No, I'm not."
Yeah, but then they had their, and said, "Oh, Hassan, my son, my first advice is that you should not mix or associate with anyone. If you do not, you will avoid trouble, for safety is in keeping aloof."
Just never talk to anybody.
"I have heard the poet say, there is no man whose friendship you can trust, nor is there true friend in adversity. Then live alone and lean for help on none. Let this advice of mine your lesson be. Second, O my son, oppress no one, lest fortune oppress you. For fortune is for you one day, but against you another, and its gifts are alone to be repaid. I have heard the poets say, be careful and restrain your hasty wish. Be merciful to all, and they will mercy show. The hand of God is above every hand, and every tyrant shall another know. Third, hold your tongue and let your faults distract you from the faults of others. Preserve silence, for it is said, in silence safety. I have heard the poet say, silence is fair, safe taciturnity. Though if you speak, do not a blabbler be. For if your silence may once bother you, your uttered words you will forever rue. Fourth, my son, beware of drinking wine, for wine is the root of all evil, because it robs man of reason. Beware, beware of drinking wine. I have heard the poet say, I have all wine forsworn and joined its many detractors. For wine leads man astray. It opens all the evil doors.
Was he drunk when he quarreled with his brother?
I think so.
Okay, that makes more sense then. Why he would be like, don't drink wine. Well, this kid doesn't have brothers though, so whatever.
Greg posits that perhaps it's because the chances of his pants catching on fire are greater than his turban catching on fire.
Maybe.
I think quite possibly. Like, statistically speaking, if you were to lay out the numbers, that would probably be the case. Last, oh my son, protect your wealth so that it may protect you, and watch over it so that it may watch over you. Do not squander your substance, lest you become dependent on the meanest of men, and guard your money, for money is a salve. I have heard the poet say, when my wealth dwindles, all friends disappear. When it increases, all are friends to me. How many men for money were my friends, and when it went, how many left my company? Follow my advice. He continued to exhort his son until his soul left his body.
Jeez.
Then they burned incense around him and buried him.
Okay.
But morning overtook Shahrazad, and she lapsed into silence. And Dinarzad said, Sister, what an entertaining story!
Dinarzad is the little sister.
Yeah. Shahrazad replied, What is this compared to what I shall tell you tomorrow night, if I stay alive? Yeah, she's not terribly subtle with her plan.
Please don't murder me.
Yeah. The 75th night. The following night, Dinarzad said, Oh, sister, tell us the rest of the story. Shahrazad replied, With the greatest pleasure. I mean, what a lie, right? It is related, O king, that Jafar said to the caliph, after the vizier died, his son Badr al-Din sat in mourning for 2 full months without riding out or attending on the king until the king finally grew angry at him, summoned one of his chamberlains,
Bitch, get back to work,
and made him vizier.
Oh, what? Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Truly you are wise for how beautiful you are.
You're so hot. Please do all this work for me.
Greg says, so is this guy's advisors nothing but poets because he clearly holds their words in high standards beyond others. It's kind of a thing that people do where when they're describing something, to describe it in greater detail, they reference poetry that has said it.
Prophets or the whatever.
Yeah, prophets or poets that they feel have said it better than them. As a vizier, like, he probably had advisors and stuff, so what he was quoting wasn't necessarily people he knew, but just cultural phrases, idioms, and it's kind of like if you were saying something,
it's like
and you're
memes, basically.
Yeah, it's like making a literary reference instead of saying it in your own words.
Yeah.
I wish that I had a literary reference instead of explaining it myself.
Right?
That would have been so great.
That would have been pretty great.
Yep. 75th night. Okay. Then he bade him take chamberlains and envoys, seize the assets of the deceased vizier Nur al-Din Ali, confiscate all his money, and seal up all his houses, goods, and possessions, without leaving a penny.
Wait, why did they do that?
What? Okay.
Yeah, what happened? I thought he made him vizier. Why is he taking all his dad's stuff? Or is that the son taking all of his?
The king bade Badr to take the chamberlains and envoys and sear all the assets of his father.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I don't know. The new vizier took with him chamberlains, envoys, guards, clerks, and treasury inspectors, and proceeded to the house of the vizier Nur al-Din Ali. It happened that there was among the troops a man who had been one of the Mamluks, slaves, of the vizier Nur al-Din Ali. And when he heard this order, he spurred his horse and hurried to Badr al-Din Hassan. Okay, wait, no.
Okay,
so
which Al-Dins are these? Oh my gosh. Sometimes we get confused about what's happening. Is he looking for his brother now? Is that what?
No, the king summoned one of his chamberlains and made the chamberlain vizier.
Oh, okay.
So Badir was not made.
I see. That makes more sense.
Yeah, I think a modern day Arabian Nights would be really funny. And it's kind of like, and as the poet said, lol, I can has cheeseburger. And so it was at
the most beautiful poetry.
Yeah,
very pleasing.
As it had been preordained.
Wow. Dog poetry.
Much poem.
Very
truth.
Very truth. I'm sorry. No, I'm not.
We take classic literature very seriously. Okay, so the chamberlain, the random chamberlain who had been appointed vizier, is now being a dick, coming after the brother or the son.
The son.
He found him sitting at the gate of his house with downcast head and broken heart. He dismounted and, kissing his hand, said, "Oh, my lord and son of my lord, hurry up before death catches up with you." I mean,
they're gonna murder you.
I could give you details, but I'd rather be ominous and vague.
Yes.
Badr al-Din Hassan trembled and asked, "What is the matter?" I imagine he has a gentle voice.
I mean, he's so beautiful.
With his deer neck.
With his deer neck.
The Mamluk replied, "The king is angry with you. He has ordered your arrest, and calamity is behind me on its way to you. Run for your life, and don't fall into their hands, for they will not spare you."
Leave and never come back, says Scar.
Yeah. Badr al-Din Hassan was terribly alarmed, and he paled and asked, "Brother, is there time for me to go into the house?"
No.
The Mamluk replied, "No, my lord. Rise this instant and flee your house." Badr al-Din rose, repeating the following verses. "If you suffer injustice, save yourself, and leave the house behind to mourn its builder. Your country you'll replace by another, but for yourself you'll find no other self. Nor with the mission trust another man, for none is as loyal as you yourself. And did the lion not struggle by himself, he would not prowl with such a mighty mane."
So mighty.
He put on his shoes and, covering his head with the hem of his outer robe, left in confusion, full of anxiety and fear, not knowing where he was proceeding or in which direction he was heading.
Oh, God damn it.
At last he decided to go to his father's sepulcher.
I don't think I like that. Let's leave it blue.
And as he made his way among the tombs, he let fall from his head the hem of his outer robe, which was adorned with bands of brocaded taffeta embroidered with the following lines in gold.
Oh gosh, really?
"You who with the dew and stars do with face so radiant vie, may your fortune stay the same and your glory ever high."
That looks horrible. Okay, we're just gonna leave that alone.
Greg says, "We are role players. Of course we take literature seriously. We keep random tangents only to 40% of game time as proof of this."
Indeed.
As he was walking, he met a Jew on his way to the city.
Okay.
He was a money changer carrying a basket. And when he saw Badr al-Din, he greeted him. But morning overtook Shahrazad, and she lapsed into silence. See? Not going to finish the story.
Yeah, no, because
Then Dinazad said, "What an entertaining story!" Shahrazad replied, "What is this, compared with what I shall tell you if I live?" The 76th night. The following night, Dinazad said to her sister, "Tell us the rest of the story." Shahrazad said, "It is related, O king, that Jafar said to the caliph." When the Jew saw Badr al-Din, he kissed his hand and said, "My lord, where are you going? For it is near the end of the day, and you are lightly dressed, and you look unhappy."
You look upset. Is anything wrong?
"Are you perhaps fleeing for your life?" Badr al-Din replied, "I was asleep a while ago and saw my father in a dream. I woke up and came to visit him before nightfall."
Well,
the Jew
someone's
replied,
trying to kill him.
"My lord and master, before he died, your father had a seafaring trade, and many of his ships have just arrived with his goods. I would like to ask you as a favor not to sell the cargo to anyone but me." Badr al-Din Hassan replied, "Very well."
Very well.
The Jew said, I will this instant buy from you the cargo of the first ship to arrive for 1,000 dinars.
1,000 dinars, please.
Then he took out of the basket a sealed purse, opened it, and setting up the scales, weighed twice until he had 1,000 dinars. Badr al-Din Hasan said, "It is sold to you." And the Jew said, "My lord, write me an acknowledgement on a piece of paper." Badr al-Din Hasan took a piece of paper and wrote on it, "Badr al-Din Hasan al-Basri has sold to Isaac the Jew the cargo of the first ship to arrive for 1,000 dinars and has received the money." The Jew said, "Put the paper into the purse."
Okay.
And Badr al-Din placed the paper into the purse, tied it, sealed it, and attached it to his belt. Then he left the Jew and continued to make his way among the tombs until he reached his father's sepulchre. There he sat and wept for a while and recited the following verses. Greg says, "A tax collector Jew, racism and sexism in Old Book of Fables." Yes.
I know, it's so astonishing.
Since you left me, home is no longer home, nor is a neighbor neighbor since you went away, nor is a friend who kept me company the friend I knew, nor is the day bright day, nor are the sun and moon that shone with light the same, for they will never shine again. In desolation you have left the world, in gloomy darkness every field and plain. Oh, may the crow that our parting crowed his feathers lose and without shelter stand. My patience fails, my body wastes away. How many veils are torn by death's cruel hand? I wonder, will our nights come back again? And will the old home once more hold us twain? Badr al-Din Hasan wept at his father's tomb for a full hour, thinking of his plight and feeling at a loss what to do and where to go. As he wept, he laid his head on his father's tomb until he fell asleep. Glory be to him who sleeps not. He slept on till it was dark, when his head rolled off the tomb and fell on his back, and, with arms and legs outstretched, lay sprawling against the tomb. It happened that the cemetery was haunted by a demon who sought shelter there in the daytime and flew to another cemetery at night. When the night came, the demon came out and was about to fly away, when he saw a man fully dressed lying on his back. When he drew near him and looked at his face, he was startled by and amazed at his beauty.
Damn.
But morning overtook Shahrazad and she lapsed into silence. Then Dinarzad said, "Sister, what an entertaining story!" Shahrazad replied, "What is this compared to what I shall tell you tomorrow night, if I stay alive?"
We should talk about demons and what they actually are, because they're not really demons. A lot of them are religious. A lot of them are like, glory be to God. He is the best. They're like half genie some of the time, half just spirit. Is that what
they're kind of like, it's demon is usually the catch-all term for any supernatural being. They can be good, they can be evil. They're generally, people are wary of them. Sometimes they're like,
because sometimes they'll be like, "Thank you for helping me. I'm going to marry you," and then curse your brothers because they were assholes to you. And you're like, "No, please don't curse my brothers." But they're like, "Okay, I won't." And they get their sister to do it. That was one of the stories.
Or one of them, the guy accidentally killed a demon that was like the size of a blade of grass or something like that, just by accidentally stepping on him or throwing something.
Poor demon.
And then the demon's brother, who is super, super, super tall, came and was like, "I need to kill you now because you killed my family." And the guy was like, "What? When? I think I would have remembered that." And the demon was like, "Nope, I'm going to kill you. That happened." And then that was a story where the other people showed up, and his story was ridiculous. Yeah. The demon agreed to give 1/3 of the dude's life to 3 different random travelers who happened to cross.
And told great stories.
Yeah, because the stories were ridiculous enough. He was like, "Yep, that is a really interesting story. You may have 1/3
of this man's dude's soul, life, whatever." Yeah. I see you have closed the book. Are you getting up to go potty? What are you doing?
No, I'm getting milk.
I'm getting milk. We made cookies.
I need to quench my throat.
All right, well, Taylor's gone. I don't really know what to talk about. I guess I could talk about how I was derping with the Photoshop. Okay, so this picture, I was trying to color a little bit differently. I wanted to test out doing the lines with colors instead of just black and white, because I see a lot of art on the internet that I get really jealous of. That looks really awesome. And that's a technique that some people use. I don't know if it's like completely good or not in this. Probably not. I wonder if maybe I put like a filter over it, like multiply or something, it would look better. It's like over here we got Michael with his dumb face. Yeah.
Picture of my bae. Hashtag no filter.
Oh, goo.
Just my bae sleeping.
Stop it. Bae caught me in the act or whatever.
Yeah,
that one.
yeah. Bae caught me sleeping.
Bae caught me sleeping. Yeah, but I don't know. I get really jealous of other artists who've been doing the digital longer. I assume someday I'll be pretty awesome at it, but for now I'm okay, I guess. Yeah, I don't know what I'm doing with these lines. Let me put that back under the skin line.
Things Greg has said. Let's face it, demon is still a pretty catch-all term in this day and age for anything religious people think is monstrous, and also all the filters, all of them.
All the filters. Forever, all the filters.
Yeah, I think this could really use some lens flare.
No! Never lens flare. Not even if no. Just no. Lens flare. What's the other thing people really like to use? Burn. The burn. They use burn all over everything to make it, I don't know.
It's a cheap way to shade.
Yeah. Cheap way to shade, for sure.
It is a tool at their disposal that they choose to use in a way that.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Texture filters are pretty common. Like if you lay a filter over the whole thing, that makes it just a little bit grainy. It gives it a little bit more texture.
Yeah, I mean, I'm guilty of doing that. Just taking a page of watercolor and like I've got that one watercolor image that I put over everything for the comic. I just usually try to rotate it around because it's pretty big. Yeah, that's a good way to turn something digital into slightly textured. Probably won't do that on this, but maybe I'll see what, because I know you can put like a paper texture down. I think it's in there in the filter. You can have like the background be a texture. That needs to be a bit color. Yeah.
Greg says he got the PDF for Werewolf the Forsaken Second Ed, and it's very good. He also says that Michael shall be a Twilight vampire.
No. He shall not be a Twilight vampire. None of the vampires are Twilight vampires because those aren't vampires. I mean, like, what's that thing that Stephanie Meyer didn't even know what a vampire was, and her friend was like, "This sounds like a vampire." She was like, "Okay."
Yeah, and I mean, it makes way more sense by the last book when they have like crazy X-Men style superpowers.
Yeah.
Like, I control the elements. It's like, what?
What? Really? Okay.
All right, that's cool.
Sure, whatever.
Apparently, mages and vampires can now join wolf packs, as could Strix.
Why? No, Strix, go away. Go away, Strix. Anyway.
I think it'd be really funny if there is, when you like talk about different vampires, if there is some sort of like pearlesque or pearlescent, like statuesque type of creature, just something that exists that like looks like that. And Tristan's like, "Oh, is that a type of vampire?"
No.
Marge is like, "No. Why would you?
Why would you think that? You know, I don't really have any sort of thing like that. I don't know if that's a type of thing I want or not. I mean, it's not outside the possibility of a thing that could exist there, I guess, but pearlescent.
There are 3 walking now.
Oh, there's 3. Hello, third. I wonder if you'll introduce yourself. Coming in right when Taylor's taking his break. That's okay.
I actually don't know how long they've been watching.
Oh, well, yeah, I don't know.
I haven't been paying attention.
Eating those cookies, drinking that milk, dipping it. Mouth cover.
Only way to do.
There are other ways you could do. So right now, as you may have noticed, I'm not doing any shading currently. That's because I gotta put down the flat colors first. I don't know. Sometimes I try to say a thing to give art advice, I guess. I don't know. I don't know.
It's because wolf packs can include humans, willing or not, wolf-blooded actual wolves, and of course, werewolves.
Yeah. RP talk. You should start reading again. I like you reading.
Okay. I
don't like the color of that bed. I wish I could. I don't know what beds look like. I mean, I know what beds look like, but I don't really know what kind of oh shoot. Okay. I don't know how to do patterns. I feel like I should have patterns on here. That's going to be too boring. I need to figure out a good technique for that, I guess. Oh no, that's not what I wanted. Thought I had that down, but I don't. Here, let's try this. Is that working? No, oh shoot! Did I just delete the rectangle? Gosh, goodness gracious, is that? Okay, that's not good. Let's try over here. I was trying to think of a really clever way to do this so that I wouldn't have to. Okay, oh, no, that's not working either. I guess I'm just gonna have to get in there close and do it. Erase the lines. I am really bad at coloring in the lines. For a while, my technique was just to kind of put color all over the place. But that's not a good technique to have. Don't do that. It doesn't really save all that much time. And then you have to, I don't know, that must be skin. Another thing that I kind of learned, I guess, while doing this is I was trying to use my shading brush for coloring because I really like the texture it has, but I kind of have decided that I need to just use the solid brush, put down solid flats, and then put shading on there. I think that works best for now. We'll see. Like I've said, not a pro digital artist. Don't even know if I'd say I'm a pro traditional artist, but at least I've got more experience with that. I kind of know the order of doing things a little bit better. You should start reading again because I am horribly self-conscious that watching me erase color is not super interesting. You need to start talking so there's something interesting happening.
Okay. The 77th night. Is that what happened? Yeah. Yeah, because the demon found him.
The demon found him.
The following night, Shahrazad said, "It is related, O king, that Jafar said to the caliph, when the demon looked at Hassan al-Basri, who lay asleep on his back, he marveled at his beauty, saying to himself, 'This can be none other than one of the children of paradise, whom God has created to tempt all mortals.'"
What? Okay.
I mean, seriously, deer stole his neck.
They were like, "Damn, son, you got a fine neck. I'm going to take that."
He looked upon him for a long time. Then he flew up in the air, rising until he was between the heaven and the earth, where he ran into a flying she-demon. He asked her, "Who are you?"
Who are you?
And she replied, I am a she-demon.
Okay.
Then he greeted her and asked her, She-demon, will you come with me to my cemetery to see what the Almighty God has created among men?
Check this guy out. He's so hot.
She replied, Very well. Then they both flew down to the cemetery, and as they stood there, the demon asked, In all your life, have you ever seen a young man more beautiful than this one? When the she-demon looked at Badr al-Din and examined his face, she said, Glory be to him who has no rival. By God, brother, by your leave, I will tell you about an extraordinary thing I witnessed this very night in the land of Egypt.
I bet it was a really hot girl.
Tell me. Then the she-demon said, Demon, you should know that there is in the city of Cairo a king who is a vizier named Shams al-Din Muhammad. That vizier has a daughter who is about 20 years old and who bears the most striking resemblance to this young man.
Oh no.
For with an elegant and fine figure, she is endowed with beauty, charm, and perfect grace.
Oh.
When she approached the age of 20, the king of Egypt heard of her and, summoning the vizier, her father, said to him, Vizier, it has come to my knowledge that you have a daughter, and I wish to demand her of you in marriage. The vizier replied, O king, accept my apology and do not reproach me, but grant me your indulgence. As you know, I had a brother called Nur al-Din, who shared the vizierate with me in your service. It happened one night that we sat discussing marriage and children, but the next morning he disappeared. For 20 years I have never heard of him. Recently, however, I heard, O king of the age, that he had died in Basra, where he was a vizier leaving behind a son. Having recorded the date of the day I got married, the night I went in to my wife, and the day she gave birth, I reserved my daughter for her cousin. Besides, there are plenty of other women and girls for our lord the king. When the king heard the vizier's answer, he was angry.
So pissed.
But morning overtook Shahrazad, and she lapsed into silence. Then Dinarzad said, Sister, what an entertaining story. Shahrazad replied, What is this compared to what I shall tell you tomorrow night, if I stay alive? I'm sorry, I did a weird thing there with the she-demon voice doing the voice of the vizier.
Yeah, that got weird.
78th night. On the following night, Shahrazad said, It is related, O king, that Jafar said to the caliph, The she-demon said to the demon, The king, angry at the answer of his vizier Shams al-Din, said to him, Damn you, someone like
Damn
me,
you! Let me marry your daughter.
Someone like me asked the likes of you for his daughter in marriage, yet you put me off with a lame excuse? Yeah, maybe she needs to go back to being a bit sassy. And she swore to marry her. And he swore to marry her to none but the meanest of his servants.
Oh.
It happened that the king had a hunchbacked groom with two humps.
2 humps?
One behind and one in front.
What? Like, what?
Hunchback and a hunch front, you know.
How does that work?
Like a hunch front.
A hunch front?
Like the hunch front of Notre Dame.
No, that's not a thing. No.
I'm sure it's a thing.
No, stop. Rule 34, stop. Oh, I
Oh.
don't know if that's what you meant, but that's where I went with it.
What?
What?
No.
No. Okay. Sorry.
Oh, we lost our third person. Goodbye, third person.
Goodbye, third person.
It's been good.
It's been good.
Damn you. Having the king, hunchbacks, hunch fronts. And he sent for the hunchback, and summoning witnesses, ordered the vizier to draw the marriage contract between his daughter and the hunchback that very day, swearing that he would have the hunchback led in procession, and that he would have him go in his bride that very night.
Jesus.
I have just now left the princes and their mamluks waiting for the hunchback at the door of the bath, with lighted candles in their hands, in order to lead him in procession when he comes out. As for the vizier's daughter, she has been dressed and decked out with jewelry by her attendants, while her father is placed under guard until the hunchback goes into her. "Oh, demon, I have never seen anyone as beautiful or delightful as that girl." The demon replied, "You are lying.
You are lying.
This young man is more beautiful than she." The she-demon said, "By the Lord of this world, none is worthy of her but this young man. It would be a pity to waste her on that hunchback." The demon replied, Let us take him up, carry him in his sleep to the girl, and leave them alone together."
Demons.
She said, "Very well." And the demon carried Badr al-Din Hassan al-Basri and flew with him up in the air, while the she-demon flew by his side. Then she came down to the gate of Cairo, and setting Badr al-Din on a bench, awakened him. Badr al-Din woke up and found himself in an unknown city. He started to make inquiries, but the demon jabbed him and, handing him a thick candle, said to him, "Go to the bath, mix with the Mamluks and the crowd of people, and walk with them until you come to the wedding hall. Then press ahead and enter the hall as you are one of the candle bearers. Stand at the right side of the hunchbacked bridegroom, and whenever the bride's attendants, the singing women, or the bride herself approaches you, take a handful of gold from your pocket and give it to the women. Don't hesitate, and whenever you put your hand in your pocket and take it out, it will be full of gold. Take it and give it to those who approach you. Do not wonder, for this is not by your power or strength, but by the power, the strength, and the will of God, so that his wise decree may be fulfilled upon his creatures." Then Badr al-Din Hassan rose, lighted the candle, and walked until he came to the bath, where he found the hunchback bridegroom already on horseback. So he mixed with the people in the guise and manner already mentioned, wearing a double turban.
Double turban.
I think it's funny sometimes when they pedantically repeat everything that has happened, and then sometimes they say "But we already said that," and they just kind of move along.
Yeah. What?
Greg says either that hunchback guy is really lucky or really unlucky.
Yeah. Well, probably unlucky. I don't think he's not going to get to marry her. I mean, we all know what's going to happen. The dude's going to pop out and marry his cousin, and they'll be super hot together.
For truly, only beautiful people should marry.
Only beautiful people should get married to other beautiful people, or at all sometimes. In this story.
But morning overtook Shahrazad, and she lapsed into silence. Then Dinarzad said, "Sister, what an entertaining story." And Shahrazad replied, "What is this compared with what I shall tell you tomorrow night, if the king spares me and lets me live?" The 79th night, Shahrazad said, "It is related, O king, that Jafar said to the caliph, Badr al-Din Hassan walked into the procession, and whenever the singing women stopped to sing and collect money from the people, he put his hand in his pocket and, finding it full of gold, took a handful and cast it in the singing women's tambourines until they were full of dinars. The singing women and all the people were amazed at his beauty and grace, and he continued in this fashion until they reached the palace of the vizier, who was his uncle, where the doorman drove back the people and forbade them to enter. But the singing women said, By God, we will not enter unless this wonderful young man enters with us. For in all our life we have never seen anyone more beautiful or more generous, and we will not unveil the bride except in his presence, for he has given out a golden treasure in her honor. So they brought him into the wedding hall and seated him on the dais on the right of the hunchback. I feel bad for this hunchback.
I feel bad for like anybody who is not a main character in this.
Pretty much. Like that one girl who had all her limbs ripped off because she married the wrong dude.
Yeah. Or like any of the slaves that get blamed for stuff.
Yeah. The wives of the princes, viziers, chamberlains, and deputies, as well as every other woman present, each veiled to the eyes and holding a large lighted candle in her hand, lined up in two opposite rows, extending from the dais and the bride's throne, to the bride's throne, which stood in front of the door from which she was to emerge. When the women saw Hassan al-Basri's beauty and grace and looked upon his face, which was as bright as the new moon and as dazzling as the full moon.
What?
I don't know.
Okay.
And looked on his body, which swayed like a willow bough. They loved his charm and his flirtatious looks. And when he showed them, and when he showered them with money, they loved him even more.
Yeah,
$1 bills, y'all. Greg said, let's just feel bad for everyone in these stories. They had to live in a horrible time.
Yeah, well,
some of this was happening during like the Islamic golden age of like intellectual and academic study and pursuit, which was a pretty sweet time for some.
Well, dudes mostly. Dudes that weren't slaves.
Yeah.
A pretty not awesome time for ladies.
Well, comparatively, it was one of the not.
It was. I mean,
wasn't as awful as.
Yeah, back then it wasn't. Yeah, not awful as some things, but also not great.
Dollar bills. Okay. They crowded around him with their lighted candles and gazed on his beauty and envied him his charm, winking at each other. For every one of them desired him
winking
and
at
wished
each other.
that she was lying in his lap. Everyone said, "None deserves our bride but this young man. What a pity to waste her on the worthless hunchback. May God curse him who brought this about." May God curse him who brought this about.
Okay.
Yeah. And they cursed the king.
They cursed the king.
The hunchback, who was wearing a brocaded robe of honor and a double turban, and his neck buried between his shoulders, sat rolled up like a ball, looking more like a toy than a man.
Oh.
He was like him of whom the poet said.
Oh no. Gonna get dissed.
Oh, for a hunchback who can hide his hump like a pearl hidden in an oyster shell, or one who looks like a castor oil branch from which dangles a rotten citric lump.
Oh.
Yeah, that's bad. Then the woman began to curse the hunchback and to jeer at him, while they prayed for Badr al-Din Hassan and ingratiated themselves with him. Then the singing women beat their tambourines and played their flutes as the attendants emerged with the bride. But morning overtook Shahrazad, and she lapsed into silence. Then Dinarzad said to his sister, "Sister, what an amazing and entertaining story." Shahrazad replied, "What is this compared with what I shall tell you tomorrow night, if the king spares me and lets me live?" The 80th night. The following night, Shahrazad said, "It is related, O king, that Jafar said to the caliph, as Badr al-Din Hassan sat on the bench next to the hunchback, the attendants emerged with his cousin. They had combed her hair and, inserting sacks of musk, braided her tresses. And after they had perfumed her with the incense of cardamom and ambergris, they decked her with robes and jewelry worthy of the Persian kings. She paraded in a robe embroidered in gold with dazzling figures of all kinds of birds and beasts, with eyes and bills of precious stones, and feet of rubies and green beryl. She wore a very rare and precious necklace, set with large round gems that dazzled the eyes and staggered the mind. As the attendants led the way with lighted camphor candles, her face shone under the candlelight, looking more brilliant than the full moon when it shines on the 14th night. With eyes sharper than a bare sword, lashes that captivated the heart, rosy cheeks and swinging gait, she advanced, dazzling the eyes with beauty beyond description, aside from, of course, all that description. The singing women received her by playing on the tambourines and all sorts of musical instruments. Meanwhile, Badr al-Din Hassan al-Basri sat while the women gazed on him like the moon among the stars, with a radiant brow, and neck as white as marble, a face as bright as the moon, and a rosy cheek graced with a mole, like a disc of ambergris. Don't forget his beautiful mole. As the bride approached, swaying gracefully and unveiled her face, the hunchback rose and bent to kiss her. But she turned her head from him, slipped away, and stood before Badr al-Din Hassan, her cousin, causing the singing women to cry out aloud and the people to clamor. Badr al-Din Hassan put his hand in his pocket and, again finding it full of dinars, took a handful out and cast it in the singing women's tambourines, and he kept taking out handfuls and throwing them to them, while they commended him to God and signaled to him with their fingers, meaning to say, "We wish that this bride was yours."
How do you signal with the fingers?
You just use a lot of your fingers. In redneck Arabian Nights, Greg says, the hunchback would be considered more handsome than the women. And as every woman at the wedding gazed on him, he smiled, while the hunchback sat alone like a monkey.
Oh.
Then Badr al-Din Hasan began to move excitedly, surrounded by servants and slave girls, who were carrying on their heads large trays full of gold pieces and dinars, part as a gift for the bride, part for distribution to the public. When the bride made her way to him and stood before him, he kept staring at her, contemplating the beauty that God had bestowed on her alone, while the servants scattered the gold pieces over the heads of the young and old. And he was happy and rejoiced at what he saw. Pieces of gold are really the thing you should be showering on people. It sounds painful. But morning overtook Shahrazad, and she lapsed into silence.
I was trying to draw the lines back in here, but then I accidentally did the eraser thing, which I didn't want to do. But it works. Oh, shush you. Oh, shush. Shush you. Okay, let's go back to the draws.
Then Dinozad said, Sister, what a strange and entertaining story. Shahrazad replied, What is this, compared with what I shall tell you tomorrow night, if I stay alive? The 81st night. The following night, Shahrazad said, It is related, O king, that Jafar said to the caliph, the attendants presented the bride in her first dress. As she swayed coquettishly to the delight of the amazement of Badr al-Din Hasan and everyone present. Footnote: the custom still prevails in some parts of the Middle East to present the bride in different dresses to the bridegroom.
Okay.
When he looked at his cousin in her red satin dress and saw her blooming, radiant face, he was happy and rejoiced at what he saw, for she was like the one of whom the excellent poet said.
Not just a poet, but an excellent poet.
Like the sun above a reed in the dunes she flamed, clad in a pomegranate red attire, and offered me the bounty of her cheeks and her lips wine to quench my burning fire. Then they changed her dress and put on a blue one, and she reappeared like the shining moon, with jet black hair, soft cheeks, smiling mouth, swelling bosom, firm wrists, and opulent limbs.
Firm wrists.
It's all on the wrist. It's all on the wrist.
On the wrist.
She was like her of whom the noble poet said, she came in lapis blue, oh heavenly sight, a moon of summer on a winter's night. Then they clad her with another dress, and, letting down her long tresses, which were as black as the deep night, veiled her face with her abundant hair, save for her eyes, which pierced the hearts with their keen arrows. She was like her of whom the poet said, veiling her cheeks with hair she came to charm, and like a dove appeared to lovers' harm. I said, you veil the morning with the night. She said, no, 'tis a moon that I veil from the light. And lo, the poet then dropped his mic. Then they clad her with the fourth dress, and she reappeared like the rising sun, swaying coquettishly, turning gracefully like a deer, and placing the hearts, and piercing the hearts with the arrows of her eyes. She was like her of whom the poet said, the sun of beauty she to all appears, with coy reserve and with coquettish grace. And when the sun beholds her radiant smile, he in the clouds hastens to hide his face. Then they presented her in the fifth dress, which revealed her wonders, as she swayed her hips and shook her ringlets and curving side tresses, like a willow bough, or a deer bending to drink. She was like her of whom the poet said, she comes like a full moon on a fair night, with dainty limbs and a slender waist, with eyes that subdue all men with their charm, with cheeks that vie with rubies at their best. She trails her jet black hair over her hips. Beware the serpents of her curls, beware.
Beware the
her
serpents.
sides are soft, but alas, alas, a heart harder than stones lies hidden there.
Oh no.
From arching brows she sends her darting looks, which, although distant, never misses the mark. When I embrace her waist to press her to my heart, her swelling breasts repel and push me back. Ah, how her beauty all outshines, and how her fair shape puts to shame the tender bough. Then they presented her in the sixth dress, which was green. In this she attained the height of beauty, shaming a bronze spear with her slender form, and bending bow with her softness and supple grace, and outshining the rising moon with her radiant face. She surpassed every fair woman in the world, and broke every heart, as the poet said of one like her. There was a maid with such polish and grace, that e'en the sun seemed borrowed from her face. Bedecked in green she came, fair to behold, as a pomegranate bud the green leaves enfold. And when we asked, "What do you call this dress?" she answered in sweet words meant to impress, "Since I have tortured many with my arts, in this dress I call it breaker of hearts."
Sweet rhymes, yes.
Oh god, that needs to be a treasure quality or something like that.
Breaker of hearts.
That's great. But morning overtook Shahrazad, and she lapsed into silence. She doesn't get very far in each night.
No.
Then her sister Dinazad said, "Sister, what an amazing and entertaining story." Shahrazad replied, "What is this compared with what I shall tell you tomorrow night if I stay alive?" The 82nd night. The following night, Shahrazad said, "It is related, O king, that Jafar said to the caliph, whenever the attendants presented the bride in a new dress and brought her before the hunchback, she turned her head from him and, moving away, stood before Badr al-Din Hasan, who took out a handful of gold from his pocket and gave it to the singing women. This went on until she was unveiled in all 7 dresses, and the attendants signaled to the guests to depart. Everyone departed except for Badr al-Din and the hunchback, while the attendants took the bride inside to undress her and prepare her for the bridegroom. The hunchback turned to Badr al-Din and said, "You have favored us and cherished us with your presence. Would you please rise and leave us now?" Saying, "Very well."
You've been very nice, but please, GTFO.
Badr al-Din rose and made his way to the hallway, where he was met by the demon and she-demon, who asked, "Where are you going? Wait here, and when the hunchback comes out to go to the privy to relieve himself, go back to the bedroom and lie in the canopied bed. And when the bride comes and speaks to you, say, 'It is I who am your husband, for the king has planned all this only to laugh at the hunchback, whom he hired for 10 dirhams and a bowl of food, and then got rid of.
Aww.
Then proceed to take her virginity and consummate your marriage.' We have no sympathy for the hunchback in this matter. None but you deserves this young woman."
Oh, hunchback. Poor hunchback.
While they were talking, the hunchback came out and went into the privy, while he sat defecating so much.
Okay, yeah, so much that.
Defecating so much that the shit just kept coming from his ass.
Is that what it says?
Literally, that's what it says.
Oh my god.
The demon suddenly emerged from the water bowl in the privy in the shape of a black tomcat and said, "Meow, meow."
Really? That's what it...
This is literally what it... This is the text of the book.
Okay, classic literature, yeah.
The hunchback cried, "Away with you, unlucky cat!" But the cat grew and swelled until he became as big as an ass colt. Brain, different kind of ass.
Okay.
Like
ass colt, okay.
Brain, hee-haw, hee-haw. The hunchback was startled, and in his fear, he smeared his legs with shit, screaming, "Oh, people of the house, help me!" And then the ass grew even bigger and became a buffalo, and in a human voice said, "Damn you, hunchback!" The hunchback quaked and was so terrified that he slipped on the toilet with his clothes on, saying, "Yes, indeed, O king of the buffaloes!" The demon cried out, "Damn you, you mean hunchback! Is the world so small that you had to marry none but my mistress?"
Oh.
The hunchback replied, "My lord, I am not to blame, for they forced me to marry her, and I did not know that she had a buffalo for a lover."
Say that too, or she had that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not making stuff up. Okay. "What would you like me to do?" The demon said, "I swear to you, that if you leave this place or say anything before sunrise, I will wring your neck. As soon as the sun rises, depart and never return to this house, or let us hear from you again." Then the demon seized the hunchback and turned him upside down, with his head stuck in the toilet and his feet up in the air, saying to him, "I will stand here to watch you, and if you try to leave before sunrise, I will seize you by the legs and dash your head against the wall. Be careful with your life."
Okay. Jeez.
So much for the hunchback.
So much for the hunchback.
That is literally what it says.
Oh, really? Okay. That's not you.
The sentence beginning the next paragraph. So much for the hunchback, period. As for Badr al-Din Hassan, when the hunchback entered the privy, Badr al-Din Hassan went straight away into the net, covering the bed, and sat there waiting. Soon the bride came in, accompanied by an old woman who stood at the opening of the net and said, "You misshapen man, take God's gift, you trash!" and departed.
Okay.
Well, the bride, whose name was Seet al-Hussein, entered the bed, and when she saw Badr al-Din Hassan sitting there, she exclaimed, "Oh, my dear, are you still here? By God, I wish that you and the hunchback were partners in me."
What? Okay.
Weird threesome? Is that what she
Yeah,
said?
is that what? I don't know.
When Badr al-Din heard her words, he said, "Seet al-Hussein, why should the filthy hunchback share you with me?"
I guess that was what she was saying. Okay.
Seet al-Hussein replied, "Why shouldn't he? Is he not my husband?" Badr al-Din replied, "Lady, God forbid. The wedding was nothing but a masquerade. Haven't you noticed that the attendants, the singing women, all your relatives presented you to me, while they laughed at him? Your father knows very well that we hired the hunchback for 10 dirhams and a bowl of food, and then got rid of him." When Seet al-Hussein heard the words, she laughed and said, "By God, my little lord, you have made me happy and put my heart at ease. Take me and hold me in your lap." She had no trousers on, so Badr al-Din took off his trousers and, taking from his belt the purse containing the 1,000 dinars he had received from the Jew, he wrapped it in his trousers and laid them under the mattress. Okay, so is the Jew going to become relevant again?
I don't know.
We'll find out. Then, taking off his turban, which he laid over the wrapping cloth on the seat, he remained only in his shirt and skull cap, and stood hesitating. But Seet al-Hussein drew him to her, saying, "Oh, my love, you are keeping me waiting. Quench my desire with your love. Let me enjoy your loveliness." Then she recited these verses. "For God's sake, rest your legs between my thighs, for that is all I now want in the world. Let me hear your voice again, O love, for I long for you and await your word, while my right arm, like your own binding lace, my arm alone enjoys the tight embrace." But morning overtook Shahrazad, and she lapsed into silence. Then Dinazad said, "Sister, what an amazing and entertaining story." Shahrazad replied, "What is this compared to with what I shall tell you tomorrow night if I stay alive?"
All right, I'll actually get to the explicit stuff.
Yeah, juicy bits.
Juicy bits. Gross.
Greg has said that demon cat, and at least the hunchback didn't die.
Yeah.
No, he just got the worst swirly.
Well, at least he only got poop on his pants. He didn't get swirly, didn't it? Did he?
Yeah.
He got it on his head?
The demon put his head in the toilet.
Oh, I guess I
Yeah, the demon picked him up, put him upside down, and put his head in the toilet.
Oh.
Well, I'm not actually sure, because the demon said he was gonna leave him there,
right?
Until morning, which just being upside down until morning would be.
I thought he meant just like in the privy or whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever they called it.
The 83rd night. The following night, Shahrazad said, "It is related, O king, that Jafar said to the caliph." I don't even remember why.
Yeah, I can't, because I thought there was the guy that killed his wife.
Yeah.
And
so
are they
Jafar,
trying to decide not to kill people?
Okay, so remember there's this, because the guy killed the wife.
Because he thought she was with the slave,
but
she wasn't actually.
And the caliph was like, this is so ridiculous. I have never heard of such ridiculous coincidence. And Jafar is like, have I got a tale for you?
Right, okay. All right.
You seriously need like a book map to get through this.
Yeah.
Sometimes. Badr al-Din Hassan and Seet al-Hussein embraced, and then he took her virginity and consummated the marriage. Then she placed one arm under his neck and the other under his shoulder, and with neck on neck and cheek on cheek they went to sleep, as if they seemed to say, "Leave to the one you love and ignore the calumny, for those who envy never favor love. Two lovers in one bed, no fairer sight has mercy's Lord created from above. Bosom to bosom, each in each other's arms, they lie in bliss, clad in their own delight. For when two hearts unite in love's embrace, the world and all its clatter seem so trite. Therefore, if ever you your true love find, oh rare occasion, you should never part. And you who chide the lovers for their love, why not instead reform the wicked heart?" It's a pretty good poem.
Pretty good poem. Yeah.
When they were fast asleep, the demon said to the she-demon, "Take up the young man and let us return him to the place where he was asleep before morning overtakes us."
What?
What?
Really? Well, I guess demons are assholes, so what can we really expect?
Greg says you need a flowchart and relationship chart to understand it all.
Probably not as badly as you need for like Wuthering Heights or Game of Thrones, but still, like.
Well, it's just weird. Like you had to stop every now and then and trace back
which story, which level of story you're on.
Which level of your story you're on, and why it's being told and to whom.
Yeah.
The she-demon took up Badr al-Din Hassan as he lay asleep without trousers, clad only in his thin sequined shirt with its Moroccan gold embroidery and in his striped blue skull cap, and flew away with him, while the demon flew by her side. But no sooner had the glorious and almighty God bidden the day dawn, and the announcers of prayer climbed into the minaret tops to proclaim the Almighty One, than the angels shot the two demons with shooting stars.
Okay.
The demon was consumed by fire, while the she-demon was saved by the Almighty God and was able to come down safely with Badr al-Din Hassan at the very moment when, as fate would have it, she had reached the city of Damascus, and there she left him by one of the city gates and departed. Damascus, then and now the capital of Syria.
Okay.
When the day dawned and it was light, the city gate was opened, and the people came out, and seeing a handsome young man clad in nothing but a light shirt and a skull cap, and snoring as he lay in sleep from the exhaustion of the previous night, you know what I mean? The candle procession, the presentation of the bride, and his other activities, also, if you know what I mean, said, lucky is he with whom he spent the night. He should have waited until the boy put on his clothes. Another said, what a pity for such young people. Look at this young man. Perhaps he came out of the tavern, seeking something and, being drunk, fell asleep without clothes. Or perhaps he could not find the door of his house, and wandered until he came to the city gate, and, finding it shut, fell asleep here.
This is a really big, hypothesis. Yeah. Maybe all of these things happened. That's why he's here.
As everyone offered an opinion, the breeze blew and raised his shirt, revealing legs and thighs and belly and navel, as clear as crystal and softer than cream.
Softer than cream.
Delicious.
Delicious.
The bystanders cried out, oh, lovely, lovely.
Why are these people at work or something? What are they?
They're just walking around. They do their things. There's hustle and bustle in the city streets.
Okay.
It's Damascus, the then and now capital of Syria.
All right.
And their cries awakened Badr al-Din Hassan al-Basri, who, finding himself lying at the city gate, surrounded by a huge crowd of people, asked in astonishment,
what am I doing here?
Oh, good people, where am I? And why do you crowd around me? They replied, we found you lying here at the time of the morning call to prayer, and this is all we know about you. Where did you sleep last night? He replied, by God, good people, I slept in Cairo last night. One of them said, listen to him. Another said, give him a hard kick. Another said, son, you are mad.
You are mad.
How can you sleep in Cairo and wake in Damascus? Badr al-Din replied, By God, good people, last night I slept in the city of Cairo. Yesterday I was in the city of Basra, and this morning I am in Damascus. One of them said, By God, this is a good one. By God, this is a good one. Another said, Well, well. Another said, He is mad. And everybody began to shout, He is mad. Thus making him a madman in spite of himself, and affirming to each other, There is no doubt of his madness. What a pity for this young man. Then they said to him, Son, return to your senses. Who in the world could be in Basra yesterday, in Cairo last night, and in Damascus this morning? Badr al-Din Hasan replied, I was truly a bridegroom in Cairo last night. They said, No doubt, but you must have dreamt and seen all of this in your sleep. Badr al-Din was no longer sure of himself and began to wonder. But he finally said to them, My God, brothers, it was not in a dream that I went to Cairo, and they unveiled the bride before me, and before the hunchback. If it was a dream, then where are my gold purse, my dagger, my turban, and my robe? He was utterly confused. That's a weird thing about demons. It's kind of like, sometimes people are totally incredulous about them, but other times like, oh yeah, it's a demon. Yeah, it turns some people into dogs. That's fine. That's what they do.
That's how demons roll. That's how demons roll.
But morning overtook Shahrazad, and she lapsed into silence. Then Dinarzad said to her sister, What an amazing and entertaining story. Shahrazad replied, What is this, compared with what I shall tell you tomorrow night, if the king spares me and lets me live? And on that 84th night, Shahrazad said, It is related. Oh, weird. Typo.
Oh, what's the typo?
It is related a king, that Jafar said to the caliph, not O king.
I see.
Jafar said to the caliph, When the people cried out, He is mad, Badr al-Din began to run, and they followed him, shouting, Madman! Madman! He entered the city and ran through the markets, with the crowd pressing on him until he took refuge in a cook shop. But didn't they see how beautiful he was?
I know, like, why are they questioning him? He's so beautiful.
This cook had been a scoundrel and a robber until he repented, became reformed, and opened a cook shop.
Cook shop.
A cook shop. Yet all the people of Damascus were still frightened by him and afraid of his mischief. When they saw Badr al-Din enter his shop, they retreated, dispersed, and went their ways.
Oh, well, I guess we can't chase the madman now that he's in the crazy cook shop.
Beautiful naked madman. The cook looked at Badr al-Din and asked, Young man, where do you come from?
Why are you naked?
Badr al-Din told him his story from beginning to end, but there is no point in repeating it here. The cook said, This is a strange story. Keep it to yourself until God sends you relief, and stay with me in this shop, for I am childless, and I will adopt you as my son.
Aw.
Badr al-Din replied,
I don't.
Very well.
Very well. Okay.
Then the cook went to the market, bought him some clothes, and had him put them on. Then he took him before witnesses, and adopted him formally. And from that day, Badr al-Din became known in Damascus as the cook's son, living with him and sitting by the scales in the shop.
How old is he? He's like 20.
He's like 20. Yeah,
Okay.
He's 20.
Things I get incredulous about.
So much for Badr al-Din Hasan. As for his cousin, Seet al-Husin, she woke up at dawn and did not find Badr al-Din by her side. She thought that she had gone to the privy. While she was waiting, her father, the Egyptian vizier Shams al-Din Muhammad, the brother of Nur al-Din Ali, who is the father of Badr al-Din Hasan, came out, feeling unhappy because of the wrong he had suffered at the hands of the king, who had forced him to marry his daughter to the meanest of servants, a lump of a hunchback. He walked about until he came to his daughter's bed, and, standing by the net, called out to his daughter, Seet al-Husin. She replied, Here I am. And she came out, with a face that had turned more radiant and beautiful from the embraces of that deer-like Badr al-Din,
That deer-like.
and kissed her father's hand. He said to her, "You cursed girl! You seem mighty pleased with that abominable hunchback." But morning overtook Shahrazad, and she lapsed into silence. Dinozad said, "What a strange and entertaining story you've told us, sister." Shahrazad replied, "What is this compared to what I shall tell you tomorrow night, if I live?" But morning overtook Shahrazad, and she lapsed into silence. And Dinozad said, "Sister, what a strange and entertaining story." Shahrazad replied, "Oh, did I just read that?"
I don't remember.
I think I did. Weird.
Well, yeah, okay, whatever.
Anyway, that night's over. 85th night. Shahrazad said, "It's related, O king, that Jafar said to the caliph, when Seif al-Husn heard her father say to her, 'You seem mighty pleased with that abominable hunchback,' she smiled and said, 'Stop, father. It was enough what I had to suffer yesterday at the hands of the women who taunted me and mocked me with that mean hunchback who was not worthy even to bring my husband his mule or his shoes. By God, in all my life I have never had a better night than last night. Stop mocking me with the hunchback whom you had hired to ward off the evil eye from my young bridegroom.' When her father heard what she had said, he glared at her and said, 'Damn you! What is this talk? Hasn't the hunchback slept with you?' The girl replied, 'Stop mentioning the hunchback, that worthless creature. May God curse him. I slept in the lap of none but my true husband, the one with the dark eyes and arched black eyebrows.' Her father yelled at her, 'Damn you, shameless woman! Have you lost your senses?' She replied, 'For God's sake, father, stop torturing me and being hard on me. I swear by God that my husband, who took my virginity and made me pregnant, is a handsome young man.'
How do you know that?
Already. I know when there's a bun in the oven. Who's in the privy at this very moment?" Her father went to the privy, where he found the hunchback standing upside down, with his head stuck in the toilet and his feet in the air. The vizier was taken aback and called out, "You hunchback!" The hunchback replied, "Yeah, yeah."
Is that what?
Yeah.
Okay.
The vizier asked, "Why are you in this position? And who did this to you?"
Who did this to you?
The hunchback replied, "Couldn't you people have found anyone for me to marry except a girl who consorts with buffaloes and takes demons for lovers?"
Okay.
Morning overtook Shahrazad. She lapsed in silence. "Sister, what a strange and entertaining story. What is this compared to what I shall tell you tomorrow night? The king spares me and lets me live." The 86th night, and the following night, Shahrazad said, "Is related, O king, that Jafar said to the caliph, when the hunchback said to the father of the bride, 'Couldn't you people have found anyone for me to marry except a girl who consorts with buffaloes and takes demons for lovers? May God curse the devil and my wretched lot.' The vizier said to him, 'Get up and go.' The hunchback said, 'I am not crazy, for the sun has not risen yet, and I will not go from here until the sun rises. Yesterday I came here to relieve myself when a black tomcat suddenly emerged and screamed at me. Then he kept getting bigger until he was as big as a buffalo and spoke to me in a way that made me obey him. Leave me and go your way, and may God reward you and curse the bride.' But the vizier took him out of the toilet, and the hunchback, in that same condition, went at once to the king and told him what had happened to him at the hands of the demon. Meanwhile, the father of the bride went back inside the house, amazed and bewildered, not knowing what to make of his daughter. He went to her and said, 'Damn it, tell me your secret.' She replied, 'Father, what secret? By God, last night I was presented to a young man who spent the night with me, took my virginity, and made me pregnant. Here on this chair in his turban." Oh, sorry.
Oh,
Here,
yes.
Here on this chair is his turban, and here is his robe and his dagger, and here under the mattress are his trousers, wrapped around something. The vizier took his nephew's turban, and, turning in his hand, examined it, and said, 'By God, this is a vizier's turban, tied in the style of Mosul.' When he examined it further, he felt inside it a scroll, folded, sealed, and sewn into the lining.
There we go.
Then he unfolded the trousers and found the purse with 1,000 dinars and the piece of paper. Okay. When he unfolded the paper, he read, Badr al-Din Hassan al-Basri has sold to Isaac the Jew the cargo of the first ship to arrive for 1,000 dinars and has received the money. And as soon as he read it, he screamed and fell into a swoon.
No. There was a third person on for a while, but it looks like they're not there anymore. Too put off by the mid-Arabian Nights.
Yeah. Admittedly, it's a weird thing to come into.
Yeah. Maybe they'll go back and rewatch the whole thing. I don't know. Maybe we should have started with a book from the beginning. I don't know. I think it'd be fun. Do you like doing the storytelling? Do you want to keep doing this?
I suppose. I mean, I'd be reading to you anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
I guess I could read other things.
Yeah, we could read other things.
Uh-huh.
But you should keep reading this, because, I mean, we can keep reading this. I meant more of like after this was done.
Okay. I'm going to skip ahead real quick to see how long this story is.
Yeah, that's a good thing to check. Because I don't want to leave on like a too bad of a cliffhanger. But yeah.
We've been at this for an hour and a half, by the way.
Yeah. Okay. I was thinking of probably doing like 2 hours, maybe.
Okay.
So a little bit longer.
Greg says the storytelling is fun to listen to.
That's good. We'll keep doing it then. Yeah.
Oh yeah, this is why I stopped mid-story. Stopped right at the beginning.
Because it's really long.
Because it's really long.
How long does it go? Well, we'll probably have to stop part of the way through then, but not yet.
Oh no way! The Hunchback gets his own story.
Oh really? Nice.
Yeah. In like 30 pages from now.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Right. So yes, morning of picture of that. 87th night. Right. Yeah, because the vizier swooned.
The vizier swooned.
Yeah.
Because he was like, "My nephew, yes, my plan."
87th night. It is related, O king, that Jafar said to the caliph, "O commander of the faithful, when the vizier Shams al-Din came to himself and recalled what he had discovered, he was amazed. And when he opened the sealed paper and saw that it was in his brother's handwriting, he was even more amazed and said, Daughter, do you know who the man who took your virginity really was? By God, he is none other than your cousin, and these 1,000 dinars are your dowry. Glory be to the omnipotent God, who controls everything, for he has returned the cause of my quarrel with my brother Nur al-Din into a just resolution." Right, because he had to pay the dowry of 1,000 dinars.
Oh, okay, yeah, all right. Full circle, sort of.
I wonder how all this came about. Then he looked at the letter again, and when he saw the date in his brother's handwriting, he kissed it many times. And he kept looking at the handwriting. He wept, lamented, and repeated these verses.
That's no good.
I see their traces, and with longing pine in their empty dwelling, and my tears flow. In him who had decreed their loss, I beg that he may on me their return bestow. What's that? You just scribbled that on Michael.
Oh, I didn't mean to. I was doing it on the wrong layer. And then I probably need to put the shading on a different place, or maybe just, I don't know. So I'm gonna start over with this. I was in Tristan's color group instead of Michael's. Oh, yeah, that looks bad. Let's just start over. It looked okay because this, what is the skin I colored with, like I said before, the shading brush. So it's not completely opaque. So showing up nicely underneath, but that's not what I want ultimately. Okay.
Then he read the letter and saw the dates on his brother's arrival in Basra, the marriage contract, the consummation of the marriage, the birth of his son Badr al-Din Hassan, and the year of his death. When the vizier realized what these dates meant, he shook with amazement and delight, for when he compared the events of his life with those of his brothers, he found them parallel. And when he compared the dates of his brother's marriage in Basra, the consummation of the marriage, and the birth of his son, he found them to be identical with his own in Cairo. And when he pondered how shortly thereafter his nephew had arrived and consummated the marriage with his daughter, he concluded that all of this was planned by Providence. Then he took the letter and the piece of paper that he had found inside the purse, went at once to the king and told him the whole story. The king was very much amazed and ordered that these events be dated and recorded. Then the vizier went home and waited for his nephew all day long, but he did not show up. And when he waited for a second and a third day, and kept waiting until the seventh day, without any news or any trace of his nephew, he said, "My God, I will do what has never been done before." He took an inkwell.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to write. Okay.
He took an inkwell and a sheet of paper and wrote down a description of the entire wedding chamber and its contents. Then he ordered everything put inside, including the turban, the trousers, and the purse.
Okay.
Good morning overtook Shahrazad.
Oh. And she leapt into silence. Is there some commentating going on?
Greg says an hour and 40 minutes, and Mariah finally derps.
No, I derped a little bit earlier than that, too. I think I just covered it better.
88th night. Really? Yeah, okay, yeah. I heard, O happy king, that Jafar said to the caliph. Days and months went by, and when her time came, the daughter of the vizier of Egypt gave birth to a boy, who had a face as round as the full moon or the rising sun, a radiant brow and rosy cheeks. They cut his navel cord and applied kohl to his eyelids, and his grandfather named him Ajib and committed him to the care of the nurses, stewardesses, and servants. Kohl, K-O-H-L.
Oh, okay. So not like hot coals. They didn't put hot coals on the baby's eyelids.
No hot coals on the baby's eyelids.
Good. I don't know.
I know there's been a footnote about it before. Stop.
About kohl on eyelids.
It's an ancient eye cosmetic traditionally made by grinding galena, lead sulfide, and other ingredients.
Okay. All right.
Ajib grew, and when he was 7, his grandfather sent him to school, bidding the tutor educate him and teach him good manners. Ajib remained at the school for about 4 years. Then he began to bully, beat, and abuse the other children.
No, don't do that.
They got together and complained to the monitor about their maltreatment at the hands of Ajib.
He's an asshole.
The monitor said, I will tell you what you should do tomorrow, so that you will stop coming to school and you will never see him again.
Oh, that's extreme. Is this the prince? The prince of the daughter of the... Okay. We'll just bully him right back so he never comes back to school.
Prince. He's just...
He's the grandson of a vizier? Is that what he is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which I don't really know if there's any sort of...
title for that?
Yeah.
He's just aristocracy.
You have the official title of vaguely important.
Yep.
When he comes tomorrow, gather around him to play a game and say to each other, no one can join us in this game unless he tells us the names of his mother and father.
Oh.
For he who does not know the names of his parents is a bastard and shall not play with us.
Oh no!
The children were pleased. And the next day they came to school, and when Ajib arrived, they gathered around him. And one of them said, we will play a game, but no one can join in unless he tells us the names of his mother and father. Oh. Everyone said, very well. Then one said, "My name is Majid. My mother's name is Satita, and my father's name is Aziz al-Din." And others said the like, until it was Ajib's turn. He said, "My name is Ajib. My mother's name is Sit al-Hussein, and my father's name is Shams al-Din, the vizier."
Oh, shit. Got them.
They said, "How can that be? By God, he's not your father." He said to them, "Damn you! Vizier Shams al-Din is indeed my father."
Damn you!
But they laughed at him and clapped their hands and said, "May God help him. He does not know his father. By God, he cannot play or sit with us."
Oh.
Then they laughed and dispersed, leaving him choking with tears.
Well, maybe you shouldn't have been a jerk.
Arabian Nights, just full of awful.
Everyone's awful. Even children.
Greg says there are tons of weird stuff like that with the old-timey medicine and beauty ideas. Let's not forget the leech treatment. Yeah. All right.
All right.
Okay.
So,
then the monitor came to him and said, "Ajib, don't you know that the Vizier Shams al-Din is your mother's father, your grandfather, and not your father? As for your
don't
father,
you even know that?
Don't you know how broken your family is? As for your father, neither you nor we know who he is.
Nobody know.
For the king married your mother to a hunchback, but the demons came and slept with her, and your father is unknown. Unless you find out who he is, you will not be able to face the school children, for they will treat you as a bastard. Don't you see that even though your grandfather is the vizier of Egypt, the merchant's son knows his own father, and the grocer's son knows his, but you don't know your own father?
Wow, this teacher's a jerk
Ajib,
too.
this is a strange business."
Okay. Strange indeed. Yes, it really is. It really is a very strange business.
But morning overtook Shahrazad, and she laughs in the silence. Dinazad said, "What a strange and entertaining story."
Oh, Genericide.
Shahrazad replied, "What is this compared with what I shall tell you tomorrow night if I stay alive?" The 89th night, Shahrazad said, I heard, O happy king, that Jafar said to the caliph, when Ajib heard the insulting remarks of the children and the monitor, he left at once and came crying to his mother, Sit al-Hussein. When she saw him, her heart was on fire for him, and she asked him, "Son, why do you cry? May God never let you cry again." Sobbing, he told her what had happened. Then he asked her, "Who then is my father?"
Who's my father?
She replied, "Your father is the vizier of Egypt." He said, "You are lying. The vizier is your own father. He is my grandfather. Who then is my father?" When Sit al-Hussein heard him speak of his father, her cousin, and husband, Badr al-Din Hassan, and recalled her wedding night, she wept bitterly.
Wept?
Wept.
Okay.
What did I say?
You said whipped.
Oh.
It sounded like whipped anyway.
Whipped him bitterly.
Oh, no.
With lashes all over his little child body.
No.
She wept bitterly and recited these verses. Love in my breast he lit and went away, and left behind an empty hearth and heart. His shrine is too distant to visit now, a distance that has kept us worlds apart. And when he left, my patience also left, so did endurance, so did self-control. And when he went away, he took with him my joy, my peace, my rest, all. He took all and left me my tears of unhappy love, which from my burning eyes profusely flow. And when I long to see him once again, and with vain longing wait for him to show, I trace his image in my empty heart, which wells with thoughts, longing, and deep passion. You, whose remembrance wraps in me its warmth, whose love I show a sign of devotion, is there no ransom for the captive heart, and for the afflicted no remedy, and for the sick with love no medicine, and for the defeated no victory? Oh, my dear love, how long this coy disdain? When will you come back and be mine again.
Never.
While she wept and made her son weep with her, the vizier came in, and when he saw them, he asked, "Why do you weep?"
What's wrong with you guys?
His daughter told him what had happened to her son, and when he remembered his brother and nephew and his daughter's puzzling story, he wept with them. Then he went at once to the king of Egypt, and kissing the ground before him, begged him leave to go eastward to the city of Basra to inquire about his nephew. He also begged him for royal edicts to all provinces and city, authorizing him to take custody of Badr al-Din wherever he found him.
Okay.
He wept before the king and took pity on him and wrote him letters and edicts to all the provinces of the city. The vizier rejoiced, thanked the king, and invoked God's blessing on him. Then he returned at once to this house. And after he made preparations for the journey, he took his daughter and her son Ajib with him and departed. I like how there's now going to be a custody battle.
Just
like imagine like
I take custody of him.
The show is like Vizier Shams al-Din, you are not the father.
Oh.
Mischief Cook, you are not the father.
Mischief Cook, what was that from?
It's the cook that actually adopted
Oh,
him.
right, yeah, okay.
So there's going to be a custody battle because he already took custody of him.
Yeah, he did. He went even one and got the courthouse recognition for it too, didn't
Something
he?
like that, yeah. On the 90th night, I heard, O happy king, that Jafar said to the caliph, "The vizier of Egypt, the uncle of Badr al-Din Hassan, journeyed with his daughter and her son for 20 days until he came to the city of Damascus and saw its rivers and birds, just as the poet described them. Once in Damascus I spent such a night that time swore 'twould never the like allow. We slept carefree under the wing of night till morning smiled and beamed with dappled brow, and dewdrops on the branches hung like pearls, then fell and scattered when the zephyr blew. And the birds chanted the words traced on the lake as the wind wrote and the clouds the points drew. The vizier dismounted and pitched his tents at a place called the Plain of Pebbles, saying to his followers, 'Let us rest here for 2 or 3 days.' Then the pages and servants went on their errands into the city, this to sell, that to buy, another to go to the bath. Ajib too went into the city to see the sights, followed by a eunuch carrying a red club of knotted almond wood, with which, if one hit a camel, would go galloping as far as Yemen, a country situated on the southwestern corner of the Arabian Peninsula."
They had a footnote for what Yemen is?
Mm-hmm. They've had a footnote for all the locations.
Oh, okay.
What's the book melting?
Is that book melting? What do you mean is it book melting?
You're just going to erase that.
Yeah, you're just a jerk. You're a jerk. Yes, I'm going to erase this.
Indubitably. Yield custody battle. Greg says. Yes.
Yeah.
Damascus, so pretty. When the people of Damascus saw Ajib, who in spite of his very young age was all beauty, charm, perfect grace, just like him of whom the poet said, "The scent is musk, the cheek a rose, the teeth are pearls, the mouth is wine, the frame a bow, the hip a barge, the hair is night, the face a moon divine." They followed him, while others ran ahead and waited for him to pass by, so that they may gaze on him until, as if it had been foreordained, the eunuch stopped in front of the shop of Ajib's father, Badr al-Din Hassan al-Basri. Badr al-Din had been living in Damascus for 12 years, during which time the reformed cook died, leaving his shop and all his property to his adopted son, Badr al-Din. In the course of the years, Badr al-Din's beard had grown, and his understanding had matured. When his son and the servant stood before him, Shahrazad was overtaken with silence.
And silence overtook her.
Morning overtook her, and she lapsed into silence.
Right, okay. Yes. That one.
All right. 91st night. I heard, O happy king, that Jafar said to the caliph, when Ajib and the servant stood before Badr al-Din's shop, and he gazed on his son's extraordinary beauty and grace, his heart began to throb, his stomach began to flutter, and he felt happy, as the blood hearkened to the blood, driven by instinctive sympathy and the divine mystery. Glory be to him who controls everything. Looking at his son's outlandish attire and at his wonderful face, Badr al-Din said to him, "O my lord and master of my life and heart, you for whom I would shed my blood, would you enter my shop to taste my food and make me happy?" That day he had prepared a pomegranate seed dish cooked in sugar.
Delicious.
Yeah. At that moment, he remembered his happy days as a vizier's son, and his eyes filled with tears, and he recited the following verses. "O my beloved, as I shed my tears, I should acquaint you with my sorry plight. When I avoid you, I yearn for you so, and feel a passion that does burn and blight. 'Tis not that I hate or wish to forget, but that such love can such wisdom beget." Ajib felt tenderness for him, and his heart throbbed. He turned to the eunuch and said, "Tutor, I feel sympathy and pity for this cook, who seems to have lost a son or a brother. Let us enter his shop, and by accepting his hospitality, console him.
Oh.
Perhaps God will reward this act by reuniting me with my father." When the eunuch heard his words, he was angry and said, "What a fine thing for a vizier's son to eat at a cook shop! While I stand here to protect you with this club even from the people's looks, how can I let you enter their shops?" When Badr al-Din heard what the eunuch said, he turned to his son and recited the following verses. "I marvel that they guard you with one slave, while many are enslaved by your own grace. The basil of the beard and the jewels of the mouth, the mole of ambergris and the rubies of the face." Then Badr al-Din turned to the eunuch and said, "Noble lord, will you make me happy by entering my shop, you who are like a chestnut, black but without white within, just like him of whom the poet said..." Weird, okay.
Just like what?
Yeah, just like you of whom the poet said. The eunuch laughed and asked,
okay.
"For God's sake, what did the poet say?"
Oh, okay. For God's sake, tell me what the poet said.
I kind of want to use that conversationally now. It's like, wow, you look really good today.
Just
like what the poet said.
The poet?
Like what poet? What did the poet say? Oh, you know.
Oh, you know.
Were he not such a fine and trusty man, he would not in the court hold such sway, or guard the harem with such zeal and care that even the angels do him homage pay. In blackness he excels, but 'tis his deeds, his noble deeds, that outshine the bright day. This pleased the eunuch, who laughed, and taking Ajib by the hand, entered Badr al-Din's shop. Badr al-Din placed before them a sizzling bowl of pomegranate seeds, conserved with almonds and sugar, and they ate and found it extremely delicious. Ajib turned to his father and said, "Sit down and eat with us, and may the Almighty God reunite me with the one for whom I long." Badr al-Din said, "Son, have you too at your tender age suffered the loss of one you love?" Ajib replied, "Yes, uncle. My heart bleeds for the loss of one I love, and my grandfather and I have been roaming the land in search of him. Alas, how I long to be reunited with him." Then he wept, and Badr al-Din wept at the sight of his son's tears, and at the thought of his own separation from his home and his mother in a distant land, and recited the following verses. "If we ever meet each other again, I will have much about which to complain, for no letter can cure the ailing heart, nor can another voice a lover's pain. The critics censure my abundant tears, but tears are little for lovers to pay. When will the good Lord bring me back my love, and yet I let my care and sorrow go away? If we meet then, I will go..." Oh,
Getting all tongue-tied.
yeah. If we meet then, I will to you complain, for none but I myself can voice such pain. The eunuch felt pity for Badr al-Din, and after they ate together, he took Ajib and departed. But when they left the shop, Badr al-Din felt as though his soul had left his body and had gone with them. He could not bear to be without them, even for a single moment, so he closed his shop and followed them. But morning overtook Shahrazad, and on the 92nd night she said, I heard, O happy king, that Jafar said to the caliph, Badr al-Din closed his shop and followed his son, without knowing that he was his son. Oh, okay.
Getting really turned around with all these.
So, Badr al-Din doesn't actually know that he is literally his son. He just feels it like a super kinship.
Okay. All right. Need some butter.
He walked until he caught up with them before they reached the city gate and kept following them. When the eunuch looked behind and saw him, he said, Damn it, what do you want? Badr al-Din replied, Noble lord, when you departed, I felt that my soul had left me and gone with you. Besides, as I have some business outside the victory gate, I thought that I would come out to finish it and return. The eunuch was angry and said to Ajib, This is what I feared. This is what you have done to me. When one is blind, one does not see ahead. Because we entered this fellow shop and ate an unfortunate mouthful, he takes liberties with us and follows us from place to place. Ajib turned around and, seeing the cook following him, reddened with anger and said to the eunuch, Let him walk like any Muslim. But if he turns in the same direction when we come outside the city and turns towards our tent, we will know that he is following us. Then he bowed his head and walked on, with the eunuch behind him. Badr al-Din followed them until they came to the plain of pebbles and drew near their tents. And when Ajib turned around and saw Badr al-Din still following them, he flushed and turned pale, angry, and afraid that his grandfather might find out that he had gone into a cook shop and that he had been followed by one of the cooks. And when Ajib saw Badr al-Din's eyes fixed on him, for he was like a body without a soul, he thought that they were the eyes of a treacherous or lewd fellow, and his rage mounted. He bent to the ground, picked up a granite stone weighing a pound, and threw it at his father. It struck him on the forehead, cutting it open from eyebrow to eyebrow, and he fell down in a swoon, with his blood streaming down over his face, while Ajib and the eunuch headed to their tents. When Badr al-Din came to himself, he wiped away the blood, and taking off his turban, bandaged his wound with it, and blaming himself, saying, I wronged the boy in closing my shop and following him, making him think that I was some treacherous or lewd fellow. Then he returned to his shop, where every now and then he would feel a bit of nostalgia for his mother in Basra, weep for her, and recite the following verses.
Okay.
If you ask fair play of fate, you wrong it, for blameless fate is not meant to be fair. For blameless fate is not meant to be fair. Take what may please you, and not be concerned, for in this life, one day is troubled, one day fair. Can't rhyme fair with fair. The morning of the Shahrazad. 93rd night. I heard, O happy king, that Jafar said some stuff. Badr al-Din returned to his shop and resumed selling his food. Meanwhile, his vizier, his uncle, stayed in Damascus for 3 days and departed for Homs. And after he arrived there and finished his search, he departed for Hama, where he spent the night. Again, after he finished his search, he departed, pressing on until he reached Aleppo. Homs, Hama, and Aleppo then are now cities in Syria, where he stayed for 2 days. Then going through Diyarbakir, Mardin, Sinjar, and Mosul, then are now cities in northern Iraq, Diyarbakir and Mardin, then are now cities in eastern Turkey. He fared on until he reached Basra. When he arrived, he went up to meet the king, who received him with honor and esteem, and asked the reason for his coming. Shams al-Din related to him his story and told him that his vizier, Nur al-Din Ali of Egypt, was his brother. The king commended Nur al-Din's soul to the mercy of God and said, "My lord, he lived here for 15 years. Then he died, leaving a son who stayed here only 1 month after his father's death and disappeared without any trace or news. But his mother, who is the daughter of my old vizier, is still with us." Shams al-Din asked the king for permission to visit her and meet with her, and the king gave him permission. He went to his brother Nur al-Din's house and looked around and kissed the threshold. And he thought of his brother Nur al-Din and how he had died in a foreign land, and he recited the following verses. I wandered through the halls where Layla lived, and in my sorrow kissed the stony walls. 'Tis not for the stones that I burn with love, but for the dear one who dwelt in the halls. Then he entered the main gate and found himself in a spacious courtyard, at the end of which stood an arched door vaulted over with granite inlaid with multicolored marble. He walked around the house and, casting his eyes on the walls, saw his brother Nur al-Din's name inscribed in letters of gold and Iraqi lapis lazuli, which is a semi-precious stone of bright blue color.
Used for enchanting.
He went up to the inscription and kissed it, and thinking of his brother and his loss, he wept and repeated the following verses. I ask for news of you, the rising sun, and of the lightning's flashes of you inquire, and in the throes of passion pass my night, without complaining of love's hellish fire. Oh, my love, if our parting longer lasts, my pining heart with pain will waste away. But if you bless my sad eyes with your sight, the day we meet will be a blessed day. Think not that I have found another love. There is no room for others in my heart. Pity a tortured lover sick with love, whose heart by parting has been torn apart. If fate should bless my sad eyes with your sight, I would that day offer my thanks to fate. May God defeat all those who wish us ill, and thwart those who slander to separate. Then he walked in and stopped at the door of the hall. In the intervening years, his brother's widow, the mother of Badr al-Din Hassan of Basra, had, from the day of her son's disappearance, given herself up to weeping and lamentation day and night, and after a long time went by, she made a tomb for her son in the middle of the hall and continued to weep there day and night. When her brother-in-law reached the hall and stood at the door, he saw her draping the tomb with her flowing hair and heard her invoking her son Badr al-Din Hassan, weeping and repeating these verses. O tomb, has he his beauties lost? Or have you lost yourself that radiant look? O tomb, neither a garden nor a star, the sun and moon at once, how can you host? Shams al-Din entered and, after greeting her, informed her that he was her brother-in-law and told her what had happened. I heard, O happy king, that on this 94th night after morning overtook me, and I lapsed into silence, that Jafar said to the caliph, Shams al-Din told her what had happened, and how Badr al-Din had spent a night at his house 10 years ago, but had disappeared in the morning. How on that night the young man had gone into his daughter, taken her virginity, and made her pregnant, and how when her time came she gave birth to a boy, concluding, This boy with me here is the son of your son. When Badr al-Din's mother heard this news of her son, that he was still alive, she looked at her brother-in-law, threw herself at his feet, wept bitterly, and recited the following verses. How good is he who tells me they have come, for he brings me the best of news to know. Were he content with worn-out robes, a heart at parting torn, I would on him bestow. Then she rose and embraced Ajib, pressing him to her heart, kissed him, and was kissed by him, and wept. But the vizier said to her, There is no time for weeping. Get yourself ready and come with us to the land of Egypt, and we will perhaps be reunited with your son, my nephew. For this should be written. This story should be written down." She rose at once and prepared herself for the journey, while the vizier went to take his leave of the king, who provided him for the journey, sending with him the gifts of the king of Egypt, and bade him goodbye. Shams al-Din set out of Basra on his journey homeward, and he fared on until he reached Aleppo, where he stayed for 3 days. Then he resumed his journey until he came to Damascus, and halted, pitching his tents in the same place, and saying to his men, "We shall stay here for 2 or 3 days to buy some fabrics, as well as other presents for the king." Then he went on his business. Meanwhile, Ajib came out and said to the eunuch, "Tutor, let us go into the city and enjoy the sights, and see what has become of the cook, whose food we ate and whose head I cut. For he was kind to us, but we treated him badly." The eunuch replied, "Very well, let us." I don't think that's how the eunuch talked. Anyway, whatever. Then they left the tents, as the blood tide drew Ajib to his father, and walked until they entered the city through the heavenly gate. They spent the time at the Umayyad Mosque till close to the time of the afternoon prayer. Then they walked through the Grand Market and continued walking until they came to the shop of Badr al-Din Hassan and found him standing there.
Okay.
The Umayyad Mosque, then and now one of the great mosques of the Muslim world, built between AD 705 and 714. The Grand Market is the famous market of Damascus, whose main street leads to the Umayyad Mosque. And now you know.
And now you know.
He had prepared a pomegranate seed dish preserved in almonds and sweet julep, flavored with cardamom and rose water, and the food was ready to serve. When Ajib looked at him and saw him marked from eyebrow to eyebrow with the dark scar he had given him with the blow, he felt tenderness for him and was overcome with pity. He said to his father, "Peace be with you. You have been on my mind." When Badr al-Din looked at him, his stomach began to flutter and his heart began to throb, as the blood hearkened to the blood. He bowed his head and tried to reply, but his tongue could not find the words. Then, still overwhelmed, he raised his head, looked at his son sadly and imploringly, and recited the following verses. "I long to see the one I love, and when I did, I stood before him dumb and blind. I bowed my head in reverence and awe, but failed to hide the love that seethed behind. My heart was full of troubles and concerns, but not a single word bespoke my mind." Then he said to Ajib, "Perhaps you and the noble gentleman will enter my shop and eat my food to heal my broken heart, for by God I cannot look at you without a throbbing in my heart. When I followed you the other time, I was beside myself." Ajib replied, but morning overtook Shahrazad, and she lapsed into silence. Then Dinarzad said, "Sister, what a strange and entertaining story." Shahrazad replied, "What is this compared to with what I shall tell you tomorrow night, if the king spares me and lets me live?"
You getting sleepy?
I'm getting there. The 95th night. The following night, Shahrazad said, "I heard, O happy king, that Jafar said to the caliph, Badr al-Din said to his son, 'When I followed you, I was beside myself.' Ajib replied, 'You must be very fond of us. You gave us a mouthful of food, and assuming that we owed you something, you tried to dishonor us. This time we will not eat anything, unless you swear that you will not hold us under any obligation, follow us, or make any claim on us. Else we will not visit you again. We are staying here for about a week, so that my grandfather may buy presents for the king of Egypt.' Badr al-Din said, 'Very well, you may do as you please.' Ajib and the eunuch entered the shop, and Badr al-Din ladled from the top of the pot a bowl full of food and placed it before them. Ajib said to him, 'Sit down and eat with us.' And Badr al-Din was glad and sat down and ate with his son, with his eyes fixed on him, for his whole being yearned for him. Ajib said, 'Ha ha, haven't I told you that you are an overbearing lover? Stop staring at my face.'
Stop staring at my face.
This boy is 12.
Oh, I forgot.
Yeah. Badr al-Din sighed and recited the following verses. Passion for you lies deeply in the heart, a secret sealed in darkness, seen by none. O you whose beauty shames the shining moon, whose ample grace rivals the rising sun, your radiant face frustrates the burning heart, and with hopelessness afflicts love's desire. Your mouth is nectar,
Oh, jeez.
but I die of thirst. Your face is heaven, but I burn in fire.
Okay.
Down, down in a burning ring of fire.
Okay. Okay.
The
Nice bright
flames
color.
are getting higher.
Okay.
They ate together, and Badr al-Din kept putting morsels now in Ajib's mouth, now in the eunuch's, until they were satisfied. They rose up, and Badr al-Din poured water on their hands, and loosening a towel from his waist, gave it to them to wipe their hands with, and sprinkled them with rose water from a casting bottle. Then he ran out of the shop, and rushed back with an earthenware pitcher containing a sweet drink flavored with rose water and cooled with snow.
Where did he get snow from?
I don't know, he probably has a snow box that's cooled with snow.
Okay. Oh, this looks weird. I'm just gonna...
He set it before them, saying, complete your kindness to me. Ajib took the pitcher and drank, and passed it to the eunuch, and they kept passing it around until they had enough, and their stomachs felt too full, for they had eaten much more than usual. Then they thanked him, and bidding him goodbye, hurried through the city until they came out through the east gate, and hastened to their tents. Ajib went to see his grandmother, Badr al-Din's mother, and she kissed him, and thinking of her son Badr al-Din and his days with her, sighed and wept until her veil was wet, and recited the following verses. Had I not thought that we would meet again, I would have, after you, of life despaired. I swear my heart holds nothing but your love, by God who knows and has my secret shared. Then she asked Ajib, son, where have you been? And set food before him, and as it had been foreordained, they too had cooked a pomegranate seed dish, except this one had less sugar. She gave him a bowlful together with some bread, and said to the eunuch, eat with him, saying to himself, by God, I can't even smell the bread. He sat down to eat.
I can't even smell the bread.
I'm so full I can't even smell. But morning overtook Shahrazad, and she lapsed into silence. Then Dinarzad said, sister, what a strange and entertaining story. Shahrazad replied, what is this compared with what I shall tell you tomorrow night, if the king spares me and I stay alive? The 96th night. The following night, Shahrazad said, it is related, O king, that Jafar said to the caliph. The eunuch sat down, though his belly was full with what he had already eaten and drunk. Ajib dipped a piece of bread in the pomegranate dish, took a bite, but found the food insipid. He too was full. He said, bah, what is this awful stuff?
What is this?
His grandmother was astonished and said, son, do you find fault with my food? I cooked it myself, and no cook can compare with me, except my son, Badr al-Din Hassan.
How do you know that? Okay.
Yeah, I guess. Apparently he's a super awesome cook, in addition to all the other fantastic and wonderful things he's naturally good at.
And so beautiful. And he's so beautiful.
So tall and slim. She replied, grandmother, we have just now found in the city a cook who had prepared a pomegranate seed dish, whose aroma delights the heart and whose flavor stimulates the appetite. Your food is nothing by comparison.
Jeez.
Grandma.
Harsh.
Nothing.
Your food is shitty, Grandma. I hate it. It's not enough sugar.
What a terrible thing to say to you.
It's a really bad thing. Yeah, you should never say that to your grandma.
I guess he was a bully.
Yeah.
When his grandmother heard his words, she was angry, and turning to the eunuch said, Damn you! You were corrupting my son by taking him into the city and letting him eat in cook shops.
Okay.
He had to believe that my food was the most delicious by never eating anybody else's food. When he couldn't eat that last part.
I know.
Sometimes when I read, I make things up. I try to note when those things happen because that's not really fair. I don't know.
Yeah.
When the eunuch heard her words, he was frightened and said, "No, by God, my lady, we did not eat anything. We only saw the cook shop in passing."
You are a liar.
But Ajib said, "By God, grandmother, we did enter the shop. And both this time and the other time, we ate a pomegranate seed dish that was better than yours."
Oh.
In her anger, she went and informed her brother-in-law, provoking him against the eunuch, at whom the grandfather yelled, saying, "Damn you! Where did you take my grandson?" Afraid of being put to death, the eunuch denied everything.
Oh.
But Ajib told on
What
him,
an asshole!
saying, "Yes, by God, grandfather, we went into the cook shop and ate until the food came out of our nostrils.
Oh, God.
And the cook gave us an iced sweet drink."
I don't understand why the eunuch is lying to you. Oh.
The vizier became angrier and said, "You ill-fated slave, did you take my grandson into a cook shop?" The eunuch continued to deny it until the vizier said to him, "My grandson says that the two of you ate until you were full. If you were telling the truth, then eat this bowl full of pomegranate seeds, which is before you."
Oh.
The eunuch said, "Very well," and took a morsel from the bowl and ate it, but unable to swallow a second, he spat it out and threw it away, and drawing away from the food said, "By God, my lord, I am full ever since yesterday."
Oh no, my battery's low. Where's my... There. Okay. Here we go. Plug in. You can keep reading. You don't have to wait for me to plug in my thing.
That's important.
Yeah.
By this, the vizier realized the truth and ordered his servants to throw the eunuch down and beat him.
Oh.
Smarting under the blows, the eunuch cried for mercy and said, "My lord, we did enter a cook shop, and we did eat a pomegranate seed dish that was indeed better than this one."
It was so good.
It was just too good. His words angered Badr al-Din's mother, who said, "For God's sake, son, and may God reunite me with my own son, you must go and bring me back a bowl of pomegranate dish from that cook, so that your master may judge which is the better and the tastier of the two, his or mine."
Oh.
The eunuch replied, "Indeed I will." Then she gave him a bowl and half a dinar, and he went out running until he came back to the cook shop and said to Badr al-Din, "Excellent cook, I have made a wager about your cooking in my master's household. Give me half a dinar's worth of your pomegranate dish, and it better be good, for I have a belly full of beating for entering your shop. Don't let me taste more beating with your food." Badr al-Din laughed and said, "By God, noble lord, no one can cook this dish as well but myself and my mother, and she is far away." Then he ladled out the food, choosing the best parts, covered the bowl, and gave it to the eunuch, who hastened back with it. Badr al-Din's mother took it, and when she tasted the food and noticed its excellent flavor, she knew who had cooked it, shrieked, and fell down in a swoon. The vizier was astonished and sprinkled water on her, and when she came to herself, she said, "If my son Badr al-Din is still in this world, none has cooked this dish but he." The morning overtook Shahrazad, and she lapsed into silence. Then Dinarzad said, "Sister, what a strange and entertaining story." Shahrazad replied, "What is this compared with what I shall tell you tomorrow night, if the king spares me and lets me live?" The 97th night. The following night, Shahrazad said, "It is related, O king, that Jafar said to the caliph, Badr al-Din's mother said, 'No one has cooked this dish but my son, Badr al-Din, for none knows how to cook it as well as he.' When the vizier heard her words, he rejoiced and felt happy and said, 'Alas for you, my nephew! I wonder whether God will ever reunite us with you.' Then he rose at once and called out to his followers, attendants, slaves, camel drivers, and porters, about 50 in all, saying, "Take sticks, clubs, and the like, and go to the cook shop and demolish it by breaking everything inside, even the pots and dishes.
Break it
Then
off.
tie him with his turban and saying, 'Are you the one who has cooked this awful pomegranate seed dish? Bring him here. But none of you beat him or do him any harm. Just bind him and bring him here by force. In the meantime, I will go to the vizier's palace and come back.' They replied, 'Very well.'"
Very well, sir. We are your slaves.
Greg has commented, "And knowing is half the battle," in response to the footnotes. And how dare he go to a cook shop? How dare he eat food while traveling in the city? How outrageous. I'm getting kind of hungry again, so I'm going to eat the rest of my dinner.
So I'm torn between, I'm very close to probably just calling it good and being done. Like with the picture.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm getting very tired. Very tired indeed.
Yeah, it's almost 9:30.
Not like tired for bed, but like tired of looking at the screen while
Yeah.
drawing.
Well, I mean, we're at 2.5 hours.
Yeah. It's
All right, we've got.
how many? I guess
We're on page 241, and it ends on 248.
Oh.
So we're nearing the end.
Yeah. Why don't we'll just finish it up and then we'll be done.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that good for Tristan, probably. Probably good. I could probably do shading on the hair.
What a handsome bunch.
So handsome. So sleepy. I don't know. I like the colored lines on some of it, but not all of it. Probably would have been better with some as black. I don't know if there's an easy way to change that. I like change the lines to black, some of them, to see what they look like.
Yes. Are they on their own layer?
Yeah.
Reduce the saturation and
Okay. Darker.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna do a little bit of shading on Tristan's hair.
Okay. Yeah, go to the layer that has the lines in it. Reduce the saturation, decrease brightness, and increase contrast, and that should bring it to a very dark gray or black.
Okay.
Maybe
then I'll just do like a burn or like a color burn on it or something. I don't know. We'll see.
All right, let's get through this. Greg says sleep is for the weak.
Oh, I won't be going to sleep. I just want to not be drawing.
Yeah. You could always.
I've been doing arts like all day.
Yeah.
Call it good on this one, or?
Yeah, you could probably call it good on this one if you're getting kind of fatigued and you just kind of like go sketch something else, or I don't know, do a different thing.
I don't know. Just we've only got like 4 pages, 8 pages,
7 pages,
7 pages. I can probably do the rest of this.
I feel bad how much I've been moving. Like I wonder if my my reading, my audio has been. I've been wiggling around.
That's probably all right. You've been talking fairly loud. I think, like not like quietly, but I feel bad because I probably been like cackling into the microphone, just like so funny.
Okay, breaking everything inside, and they're like, okay. Then the vizier mounted his horse, rode to the palace, and met with the viceroy of Damascus, showing him the king's edicts. The viceroy kissed them, and after reading them, asked, "Who is your adversary?" The vizier replied, "He is a cook." The viceroy ordered a chamberlain to go to the cook shop, and the chamberlain went with 4 captains, 4 palace guards, and 6 soldiers leading the way. When they came to the cook shop, they found it in ruins and saw everything in it broken. For while the vizier was at the palace, his servants rose, and taking sticks, tent poles, clubs, and swords, flew in a hurry until they reached the cook shop and, without speaking to Badr al-Din, fell with their weapons on his pots and utensils, broke his shelves, bowls, dishes, and trays, and destroyed his stoves. When Badr al-Din asked them, "O good people, what is the matter?" they replied by asking him, "Are you the one who cooked the pomegranate dish that the eunuch bought?" He replied, "Yes, I am the one who cooked it, and no one can cook anything like it." They yelled at him, abused him, and continued to demolish the shop until a crowd of people assembled, and seeing about 50 or 60 men demolishing the shop, said, "There must be a grave cause to this." Badr al-Din cried out, saying, "O fellow Muslims, what is my crime in cooking this food that you should treat me like this, breaking my dishes and ruining my shop?" They said, "Aren't you the one that cooked the pomegranate dish?" He replied, "Yes, indeed. What is wrong with it that you should do this to me?" But they kept yelling at him, scolding him, and cursing him. Then they surrounded him, took off his turban, and tying him with it, dragged him by force out of the shop, while he screamed, cried, and called for help. Then Dinarzad said, but morning overtook Shahrazad, and she lapsed into silence. Then Dinarzad said, "Sister, what a strange and entertaining story. I like the part when the man was abused and berated." I like Dinarzad because she literally says that after everything, even when they're like horrific and horrible things, like, and then the woman was pulled apart, limb by limb. She's like, "Wow, this is great."
Yeah.
Shahrazad replied, "What is this compared with what I shall tell you tomorrow night, if the king spares me and lets me live?" The 98th night. The following night, Shahrazad said, "It is related, O king, that Jafar said to the caliph." Badr al-Din kept crying, calling for help, and asking, "What fault did you find with the pomegranate dish?" And they kept asking, "Aren't you the one who cooked the pomegranate dish?" Well, he kept answering, "Yes, indeed. But what is wrong with it that I should suffer like this?" As they drew close to the tents, the chamberlain, with his captains and other men, caught up with them. He pushed the vizier's servants aside to look at Badr al-Din, and hitting him on the shoulders with a stick, asked him, Are you the one who cooked the pomegranate seeds?" Badr al-Din cried with pain from the blow and replied, "Yes, my lord, but I ask you, in the name of God, what is supposed to be wrong with it?" But the chamberlain scolded him and cursed him, saying to his men, "Drag away this dog who has cooked the pomegranate dish." Badr al-Din felt miserable, wept, and said to himself, "What did they find wrong with the pomegranate dish that they should abuse me to this extent?" And he felt frustrated for not knowing what his fault was. The men kept dragging him until they reached the tents, where they waited until the vizier, having gotten the viceroy's permission to depart, and having bidden him goodbye, returned to the tents. As soon as he dismounted, he asked, "Where is the cook?" And they brought Badr al-Din before him. When Badr al-Din saw his uncle the vizier Shams al-Din, he wept and said, "My lord, what is my offense against you?" Shams al-Din replied, "Damn you! Aren't you the one who cooked the pomegranate dish?" With a cry of exasperation, Badr al-Din replied, "Yes, my lord, and what a misfortune! Does my crime warrant cutting off my head?" Shams al-Din replied, "That misfortune would be the least punishment." Badr al-Din said, "My lord, will you not tell me my crime, and what is wrong with the pomegranate dish?"
"It's too good."
Shams al-Din replied, "Yes, presently." And he called out to his servants, shouting, "Pack up, and let us go." The servants undid the tents at once, and made the camels kneel for loading. When they put Badr al-Din in the chest, which they locked and placed on a camel. Because they're doing this mob style, they have to put him in the trunk.
Okay.
Then they departed and journeyed until nightfall when they stopped to eat. Then they took Badr al-Din out of the chest, fed him, and locked him up again. They kept traveling this way until they reached Cairo and dismounted outside the city. Then the vizier ordered the servants to take Badr al-Din out of the chest, and they did so, and brought him before the vizier, who sent for wood and a carpenter, and said to him, "Make a wooden, cross-like figure." Badr al-Din asked, "What will you do with it?" The vizier replied, "I will crucify you
Oh my God.
by nailing you on it, and then I will parade you through the city, because the pomegranate dish you cooked lacked pepper and tasted awful."
This joke's gone too far.
Yeah, right? Badr al-Din said, "Haven't you done enough? And all this because the pomegranate dish lacked pepper?" But morning overtook Shahrazad, and she lapsed into silence. Then Dinarzad said to her sister, "What a strange and entertaining story!" And then Shahrazad replied, "What is this compared with what I shall tell you tomorrow night, if the king spares me and lets me live?" And on that following 99th night, Shahrazad said, "It is related, O happy king, that Jafar said to the caliph, Badr al-Din said, because the pomegranate dish lacked pepper, you have beaten me, smashed my dishes, ruined my shop, all because the pomegranate dish lacked pepper. Isn't it enough, O Muslims, that you have tied me and locked me up in this chest day and night, fed me only one meal a day, and inflicted on me all kinds of torture, because the pomegranate dish lacked pepper? Isn't it enough, O Muslims, to have shackled my feet, that you should now make a cross-like figure to nail me on, because I have cooked a pomegranate dish that lacked pepper?" And Badr al-Din pondered in bewilderment and asked, "All right, suppose I did cook the dish without pepper. What should my punishment be?" The vizier replied, "To be crucified." Badr al-Din said, "Alas, are you going to crucify me because the pomegranate dish lacked pepper?" And he appealed for help and wept and said, "None has been crushed as I have been, and none has suffered what I have suffered. I have been beaten and tortured. My shop has been ruined and plundered, and I'm going to be crucified, all because I cooked a pomegranate dish that lacked
any
pepper. My God, curse the pomegranate dish and its very existence." And as his tears flowed, he concluded, "I wish that I had died before this calamity." When they brought the nails, he cried, lamented, and mourned over his crucifixion. But as night was falling and it was getting dark, the vizier took Badr al-Din, pushed him into the chest, and locked him in it, saying, "Wait till tomorrow morning, for tonight we have no time left to nail you." Badr al-Din sat inside the chest, crying and saying to himself, "There is no power and no strength save in God the Almighty, the Magnificent. Why do I have to be crucified and die? I have not killed anyone or committed any crime, nor have I cursed or blasphemed. My only offense is that I am supposed to have cooked a pomegranate dish that lacked pepper. That is all." In the meantime, the vizier placed the chest on a camel and followed it into the city after the markets closed until he came to his house. Later at night, the servants arrived with loaded camels and, making them kneel, carried the equipment and baggage inside. The first thing the vizier did was say to his daughter, Sita al-Husn, "Daughter, praise be God, who has reunited you with your cousin and husband. Rise this instant, and let the servants prepare the house and arrange the furniture as it was on your wedding night, 12 years ago."
Oh my God.
The servants replied, "Very well."
Very well.
Then the vizier called for candles, and when they lighted the candles and lanterns and brought him the sheet of paper on which he had written the exact description of the room on the wedding night, he began to read it out to them until everything was arranged.
He planned this 12 years ago? Oh my God. Really?
Until everything was arranged as it had been on that
Welcome
night.
home, nephew. We just locked you in a chest and beat you and berated you about no pepper for like a week. Here's your wife. I don't, okay.
And my wedding present to you is 12 years of psychological torment. All right, they put everything in its place, lighting the candles as they had been lighted, and placing the turban on the chair, and trousers and the purse with 1,000 dinars under the mattress. as Badr al-Din had placed them on that night. Then the vizier came to the hallway and said to
He's supposed to like trying to trick him into thinking that 12 years hasn't passed. Like what?
Yeah, like he has a full beard now. And, okay. Then the vizier came to the hallway and said to his daughter, "Undress and go to bed, as you did the night he came into you. And when he comes in this time, say to him, 'My lord, you have stayed too long in the privy.'"
No! Why? Oh my god.
"Then let him lie beside you, and engage him in conversation till the morning, when we will tell him the whole extraordinary tale." But morning overtook Shahrazad, and she lapsed into silence. Then Dinarzad said, "Sister, what a strange and entertaining story. What a psychopath that vizier is. What an unbridled psychopath he is." Shahrazad replied, "What is this compared with what I shall tell you tomorrow night if the king spares me and lets me live?" Greg has said, "Reading and commentary while Mariah arts. I've been enjoying it." Then the mystery of the pomegranate dish, a mystery for the ages, and crucified because of a lack of pepper. Talk about one hard critic.
Mm-hmm. Oh
man. The 100th night. The following night, Shahrazad said, "It is related, O king, that Ja'far said to the caliph, 'I heard, O commander of the faithful, that the vizier went to Badr al-Din, untied him, and taking off all his clothes, save for a shirt, led him slowly until he came to the door of the room from which the bride had come out to be unveiled before him, and in which he had slept with her and taken her virginity. When he looked at the room, he recognized it, and when he saw the bed, the net, the chair, he was amazed and bewildered. Advancing one foot and drawing the other back, he rubbed his eyes and said to himself in his confusion, 'Glory to the Almighty God, am I awake or asleep?' Seit al-Husn lifted the net and said to him, 'Oh, my lord, will you not come in? You have stayed too long in the privy. Come back to bed.' When Badr al-Din heard her words and saw her face, he smiled in amazement and said, 'By God, you are right. I did stay too long in the privy.' But as he entered the room, he recalled the events
Like, wait a minute.
of the last 10 years. And as he kept looking at the room and recalling those events, he was confounded and felt lost, not knowing what to make of this. He looked at the turban, the robe, and the dagger on the chair, went to the bed and felt the trousers and the purse under the mattress, and finally burst out laughing and said, 'By God, this is a good one. My God, this is a good one.'"
No.
Seit al-Husn asked, "My lord, why do you stare at the room and laugh for no reason?" When he heard her words, he laughed again and asked, "How long have I been absent from you?" She replied, "May the compassionate and merciful God preserve you. You haven't been gone but a while ago to relieve yourself and come back. Have you lost your wits?" Badr al-Din laughed and said, "By God, lady, you are right. I left you, and forgetting myself, I fell asleep in the privy.
And
I recall, as if I dreamt, that I lived in Damascus for 10 years, working as a cook, and that one day a young boy and his servant visited my shop. Then, touching his forehead and feeling the scar from the blow, he cried out, 'Wait
a minute.
No, by God, it must have been true, for the boy hit me with a stone and cut my forehead open. By God, my friend, it would seem that it really happened.' Then he reflected for a while and said, 'My God, my lady, it seems to me that when I embraced you and we fell asleep a little while ago, I dreamt that I went to Damascus without a turban or trousers and worked there as a cook.' Then he reflected and said, 'Yes, by God, my lady, it seems as if I dreamt that I cooked a pomegranate dish that lacked pepper. Yes, by God, my lady, I must have slept in the privy and seen all this in a dream, except that, by God, my lady, it was a long dream.'
Like 12 years of dream.
And Seit al-Husn said, 'For God's sake, my lord, tell me what else you dreamed.' Badr al-Din replied, 'My lady, had I not awakened, they would have crucified me.' She asked, 'For what reason?' He replied,
'Not enough pepper.
Because I cooked a pomegranate dish that lacked pepper. It seemed as if they smashed my dishes, ruined my shop, tied me and shackled me, and put me in a chest. Then they brought a carpenter and made a wooden cross-like figure to nail me on. It all happened because the pomegranate dish lacked pepper. Thank God that all this happened to me in a dream and not in reality. Seat al-Hussein laughed and pressed him to her bosom, and he returned her embrace. But he reflected again and said, "My lady,
aren't you like 10 years older?
What happened to me must indeed have been real, but there is no power and no strength save in God the Almighty, the Magnificent. By God, what a strange story."
It's at the end of the night.
But morning overtook Shahrazad, and she lapsed into silence. Then Dinazad said, "Sister, what a strange and entertaining story." Shahrazad replied, "What is this compared to what I shall tell you tomorrow night, if the king spares me and lets me live?" It kind of reminds me of that episode of Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, when the older brother, I can't remember his name, comes out and sees all the imaginary friends. They just start like walking backwards and like talking backwards, like riding a bicycle and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Very strange. It's just a dream. Just sleeping.
Yeah, it kind of like, it makes me think that they did the whole like they were going to kill him for the lack of pepper just to screw with him. So if he tried to talk about it later, he was like, "That's ridiculous. Obviously, that was a dream."
Obviously.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's gonna find out because his kid is 12 years old now.
The 101st night. The following night, Shahrazad said, "It is related, O king, that Jafar said to the caliph."
Oh my gosh.
That night, Badr al-Din lay down in a state of confusion, now saying, "I was dreaming. Now I was awake." He kept looking in astonishment at the room, the objects, and the bride, saying to himself, "My God, till now I have not even completed one night with her." Then he would reflect again and said, "It must have been real," until it was morning and his uncle came in, bidding him good morning. When Badr al-Din saw him, he recognized him and was utterly confused. He said, "In fact, aren't you the one who gave the orders to beat, tie, shackle, and crucify me because of the pomegranate dish?"
I lost the blush somewhere. I gotta play the find what layer it's on game. Did I draw it on a different person? No. Mm-hmm.
The vizier replied, "Son, the truth is out, for what was hidden has been revealed. You are my true nephew, and I did this all only to be sure that you were indeed the one who had consummated the marriage with my daughter that night. You recognized your turban, your clothes, and your gold purse, as well as the scroll written by my brother and hidden in the lining of your turban. Had the man we brought here been other than you, he would not have recognized these objects." Then he recited the following verses. "Our fate is fickle, for such is our state, that one day may depress, one day may elate." Then the vizier called for Badr al-Din's mother, and when she saw her son, she threw herself at him, wept bitterly, and recited the following verses. When we meet, we will complain of our afflictions that day, for the feelings of the heart no messenger can convey, nor is the voicing of grief keeping the feelings at bay. No messenger ever knows how to say what I can say." Then she told him how she had endured after his departure, and he too told her how he had suffered, and they thanked God for their reunion. The following day, the vizier went to the king and acquainted him with the situation, and the king was exceedingly amazed and ordered that the story be recorded. Thereafter, the vizier and his nephew and daughter lived the best of lives in prosperity and ease, eating and drinking and rejoicing themselves to the end of their days. Ja'far concluded, "This, O commander of the faithful, is what happened to the vizier of Basra and the vizier of Egypt." The caliph said, "By God, Ja'far, this is the wonder of wonders," and ordered that the story be recorded. Then he freed the slave and gave the young man one of his choice concubines, settled on him a sufficient income, and made him one of his companions to the end of his days.
Okay. Well, why aren't you erasing? Okay,
Weird, and that the story ends on the end of a night.
Well, okay. Is there something else happening? Because
Oh, no, okay, so the next story is the story of the Hunchback, but I believe it is a different Hunchback.
oh, okay, not the same Hunchback. Different.
Yeah, because this is a new story by Shahrazad. It's no longer the Caliph, and it's no longer Jafar and the Caliph.
I suppose at this point, it's probably just like, she's telling really good stories. I mean, I might as well just not kill her yet.
They don't have like so that story ends, and then they don't have the part where they're like, oh, that was a nice story. It just goes right into the 102nd night, and it starts with the following night Shahrazad said. So
okay.
Yeah.
Wow. I think I did that once before too, but
yeah, I think there's been one other instance where the story actually ended on the end of the night.
Well, let's
call it there.
Let's call it there. All right. So I got pretty far. Got it almost done. Yeah, looking pretty good. I might go and change some of those other lines to be a bit darker, but for now, that'll be good. All right. Thank you for coming and hanging out. And if you're watching later, thank you for watching this later. Down the hallway we go. All right. Good night, everybody.